Welcome to a meeting of the Board of Education of Somerset Hills. Please be advised that this and all meetings of the board are open to the public and media, consistent with the Open Public Meetings Act, and that advance notice required therein has been provided. This is the meeting of the Board of Education of Somerset Hills, at which formal action may be taken. The public will have an opportunity to be heard as shown on the agenda. Roll call, please.
Mr. Baker? Mrs. Clark-Emery? Ms. Cooper? Here. Mrs. DeGrampre?
Here.
Mrs. Frenda? Here. Mr. Joyce?
Here.
Ms. Nathans? Mrs. Tober?
Here.
Mrs. Rye? And Mrs. Santoro?
Here. Okay, executive session. Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act authorizes a public body to exclude the public from that portion of a meeting at which specified topics are to be discussed under circumstances where the public consideration of such topics will clearly endanger the public, or where the personal privacy or guaranteed rights of individuals whose activities or affairs are to be discussed would be clearly in danger of unwarranted invasions, and whereas the matters about to be presented for discussion clearly meet the circumstances test of such act. Resolved that the Board of Education of Somerset Hills now adjourns its public session to reconvene an executive session for the purpose of discussing the following: personnel, student matters, contracts, negotiations, and litigation. Can I have a motion to move into executive?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Sam. And Nicole, second? Okay. All right, good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome you and call to order a meeting of the Somerset Hills School District. It's hard to believe that here we are in June, wrapping up the 21-22 school year. I would like to give a warm welcome. We have a lot of special guests in the audience this evening from Bedwell and BMS. We have a lot of student and staff celebrations. I'd also like to welcome Gwen Thornton, who will be giving us a presentation this evening. So we do have a lot on the agenda, and we will get started. Dr. Dempsey, we need to stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Thank you. Roll call, please, Mrs. DeMarco.
Mr. Baker?
Here.
Mrs. Clark-Emery?
Here.
Ms. Cooper? Here. Mrs. DeGrampre?
Here.
Mrs. Frenda?
Here.
Mr. Joyce?
Here.
Ms. Nathans?
Here.
Mrs. Tober?
Here.
Mrs. Rye?
Here.
And Mrs. Santoro?
Here. Okay, now I would like to turn it over to Dr. Dempsey for the report of the superintendent.
Thank you so much, Heather. I'm going to look out there and see if I see Chris Sun and Mario Palenti. There they are, all the way in the back. You guys can come down to our podium for the final report.
Okay, so we want to start off by talking a little about sports at Bernards High School. Boys tennis recently won the state championship, and it's been a 40-year drought. It's the first time we've won since 1982. Yeah. Another big senior event we had was Prom, and our Prom was on the 2nd last week. And it was fantastic. It was held at the Forest Lodge in Warren. The venue was very nice, and I want to thank all the class officers for organizing the event. And we hope everyone who attended really enjoyed it. We also had yearbook signing at the end of the day today. Seniors got their yearbooks and were able to sign each other's. It looks great, and of course we appreciate all the senior class officers for making it look so good. Senior Award Night will take place tomorrow at 7 p.m. Here in the Performing Arts Center. And I also want to congratulate all the students who won awards or scholarships. Our graduation for seniors is the 16th at 6:30 p.m. And our rehearsals for graduation start next week. And on behalf of the senior class, we are all excited, and we encourage you to attend where you like for college.
And after graduation, we have our last blast, which is a pool party at Lifetime Fitness. And it's just a fun opportunity for seniors to have fun with everyone before the school year officially ends. And something else we want to take note on is the home run derby for Bryce. So as many of you know, Ari and Shelby Rosen's brother Bryce passed away last September. And they're planning a home run derby to honor Bryce's love for baseball. 100% of the proceeds will go to the Morgan Stanley Children's Hospital, where Bryce spent his first 6 months of his life and his last 3 months. The home run derby will take place on June 10th on the BHS softball field from 3 to 5, and the cost will be $15 for 10 pitches or $25 for 20 pitches, and spectators are also welcome. If you're interested, there's information on Google Classroom, so ask your kids about that. And that's all we have for tonight. I think on behalf of us, this was an amazing experience. We loved coming to talk to you guys every month, and we hope you guys enjoy the rest of the year. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't leave yet. We just have our official thank you for your service gift, which is a tradition here. So I encourage you to take a look at those because, they're individualized.
thank you.
Because if you look at what they are, you will be using them in your future. Pull them in. Dr. Wood started this tradition, so you have... Oh, how do you like that? There you go. So it's Bernard's High on one side, and there are schools that they will be attending next year. And we wish you nothing but the best, and we're so grateful for all your time and energy. Thank you so much. Thank you. I am going to welcome Ms. Garofalo next, and Mr. Kohlhofer, I guess you have a role here as well. Lisa.
Good evening, everyone. We have had the pleasure of having quite a few special things go on at the middle school this year, and quite a few special students. And we're going to recognize our students first over some of those special things that we've had. And Mr. Kohlhofer, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. The New Jersey State Board of Education reaches out to districts for nominees every year that exemplify students or groups of students who go above and beyond for others. The Kindness Club at BMS was our district's nominee. The Kindness Club, led by Mrs. Suzanne Wortman and Mrs. Kelly Fabregas, is a small but mighty group of students who spread kindness wherever they go. From collecting over 280 pounds of candy from their peers and then distributing that to the Bernardsville PD, Bernardsville Fire, and Operation Shoebox, which sends the candy directly to our troops overseas, to then delivering hot chocolate to our bus drivers on cold mornings, to collecting over 1,100 items for the cats and dogs of the 11th Hour Animal Shelter. Our Kindness Club has a ripple effect that continues to reverberate throughout our school. We would like to thank the following students of the Kindness Club.
Please come up, your names are Paul.
Kate Dugan. Charlie Lichtenfeld. Jason Monteroso. Madison Pagnotta. Claire Spiteri. And Cassidy Strauss. Congratulations, everybody. Okay, we want to celebrate another group of students. Our Board of Education speakers carry a great responsibility in attending monthly board meetings and sharing information to present to our board and our Somerset Hills community. We would like to thank the following students for their diligence and for their time. Julian Bonk. Milo Consola Katsuna. Victoria DeVito. Bridget Duff. Clara Hunziker. Keenan Metro. Caroline Soul. Thank you. Joe Sorgi. Thanks, Joe. Thank you. Brody Watt. Chloe Corbin. Charlie Quinn. And Peter DeGrandpré. That's all. Thank you very much, everyone.
I'm also very proud to present, I know that last month Dr. Nigel was here talking about the high school exemplar teachers, and I'm very proud to be speaking about our amazing teacher of the year, Mrs. Jess McGinn, and our paraprofessional of the year, Mrs. Colleen Zupa. So when I finish speaking about you, if you would come up, I would appreciate that tremendously. Mrs. McGinn has been working in the Somerset Hills School District since 2007. She is a leader in our school-wide culture and climate initiative. Ms. McGinn is a key figure in all things related to our house day activities and promoting overall school spirit at BMS. She is a master teacher in the field of special education and health. Our students know Mrs. McGinn cares about their overall well-being. She encourages, she supports, she looks for opportunities to authentically praise and encourage. Mrs. McGinn impact extends beyond the classroom and even beyond the walls of BMS. Since 2008, she has been the girls lacrosse coach at Bernard's High. She has been recognized as Coach of the Year, as well as the NJSIAA Sports Award for Girls Lacrosse recipient. Congratulations to Ms. McGinn on her well-deserved award, and she will be missed tremendously as she heads into the next part of her career path into administration. Thank you, Ms. McGinn. Congratulations. And you're back. Our teachers do an amazing job, and in this district, we also have wonderful support staff who support not only our teachers, but our students, and Mrs. Colleen Zupa is certainly one of them. I'm proud to present Mrs. Colleen Zupa as our paraprofessional of the year. Mrs. Zupa is kind and good-natured. She smiles every day, comes in with a warm greeting. She is respected by teachers and students alike. Mrs. Zupa is truly the right hand of the teachers she works with. She is collaborative and collegial, thoughtful and supportive in all of her interactions at BMS. Mrs. Zupa, congratulations. Mrs. Zupa is also retiring and leaving us this year, and we are looking forward to her putting in her sub-paperwork. So thank you, Mrs. Zupa. Thank you. Thank you. I now present Mrs. Amy Phelan.
It is certainly my honor to be up here to talk about our paraprofessional, our Educator of the Year, and our retirees. And I would like to start with Carol Goudet. If you could come down and join me while I speak. Carol is our Paraprofessional of the Year of Bedwell. Carol is the consummate team player who tirelessly supports the teacher and the students with whom she's worked. She is warm and a caring professional who loves working with students. Carol has an innate sense of when to step in and when to stay back, affording the students the opportunity to feel successful and to develop. Her gentle sense of humor is greatly appreciated by all, and it is certainly my pleasure to recognize you as Bedwell's Paraprofessional of the Year. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I'd now like to ask Jen Bohr to come down and join me. Jen is Bedwell's Educator of the Year. Jen Bohr is knowledgeable, dedicated, and kind, a master teacher who's a role model of excellence. This quote from one of her nominations perfectly exemplifies the positive impact that Jen has on her students and their families. And I quote, "Our family will be talking about Mrs. Bohr at high school graduation as the teacher who made a difference. I can only hope that all other students get as lucky as we did to have a teacher like this in their life." This is Jen Bohr, and congratulations. I'd like to ask Pat Barbetta, one of our paraprofessionals who is retiring, to come down and join me. Before I talk about how fabulous she is a paraprofessional, Pat and I went through the silver hair transition together, so we will always have that in common. Pat is a caring paraprofessional who relates exceptionally well to her students. She understands what they like and what they do not like and can anticipate potential problems before they can occur. Pat has a great sense of humor with the children and takes personal interest in them while remaining professional. She's kind, patient, dedicated, and Bedwell students and staff members alike are fortunate to have had the opportunities to work with her. Congratulations on your well-deserved retirement, Pat. We wish you well. We have another retiree, Penny Mataluna. Penny, if you come down. I am honored to speak about Bedwell teacher Penny Mataluna, who you think I'd know your name after all this time. Penny Mataluna, who is retiring after 39 years in our school district. Penny is kind, unflappable, and thoughtful. She's a teacher with contagious laughter and someone who fosters respect. She is an educator who takes the time to truly know her students and guide them through any situation that may arise. It's easy to see that Penny loves working with children, and this passion is evident in everything she does. She is a role model of professionalism, and her leadership has greatly contributed to the overall learning environment in her classroom, on her grade level team, and in the larger Bedwell school community. Penny has absolutely left a lasting impression on all the students and colleagues who have had the good fortune to encounter her during her distinguished career. Penny, I am so grateful that we have had the opportunity to work together, and thank you for the countless ways you have made Bedwell a better place. On behalf of Bedwell students and staff members, past and present, I want to thank you and wish you relaxation and adventure in your retirement. Bedwell will certainly miss you.
I knew I can't do it.
Don't sit down, Miss Bailey. I have the honor of talking about Amy as she heads off to her retirement. Amy joined Bedwell as principal back in 2007, and I can clearly remember the first time I met her. I remember the earrings that she wore, which were dangling, and the shoes, which were open-toed. But mostly I remember what I will call her vibe, which could be best described as warm, approachable, supportive, and earnest. And here we are almost 15 years later, and a little has changed. I'd hazard a guess that her administrative colleagues over the years, as well as the staff that she has led, would all describe her as warm, approachable, supportive, and earnest. 15 years is a long time at the helm, and she has navigated 5 assistant principals, including Dr. Butler and Dr. Dempsey, hundreds of teachers, thousands of families, countless lunches and assemblies, back to school nights, Halloween parades, costumes, teacher conferences, field days, a parade of the events that make up the life of an elementary school principal. Amy, I know you will have moments when you'll miss the hubbub, but you've earned the right to put your feet up and drink that coffee on the porch that you so love. We will miss you. Ms. Thornton, you can get yourself ready as we get back up on the stage. If our guests want to leave, they should not feel sad about that. If they want to stay, they can certainly stay.
You want to go through here? I'm sorry. Am I in the way? Okay. No, okay. I thought you tried to get through, so I'm trying to get that.
Good evening.
It is a pleasure to be back. For those of you in the audience who I have not had the pleasure of meeting, and some of you I recognize from strategic planning, so it's nice to see you again. I'm Gwen Thornton from New Jersey School Boards Association, and I provide direct services to boards of education across the counties of Somerset, Hunterdon, and Union in the state of New Jersey. So I'm here tonight to talk a little bit about the board's role in curriculum to help provide the board and the community with some understanding that may help you to better know what the role of the board is in curriculum. And so when we talk about curriculum, we're talking about the details of what students are expected to learn and know, how they're going to learn it, what materials will be used, and then the evaluations and the assessments which will measure what the students have learned. And so it includes all kinds of pieces that once didn't exist, including digital materials, all kinds of online content, as well as your typical textbooks and what we may have grown up learning. And so that is what curriculum is. The Board of Education is responsible and must approve by 18A 34-.1, which is state statute around education. They are required to approve all textbooks that are selected by a roll call majority of the full membership of the Board of Education. Boards of Education do not approve library books and materials. Only those textbooks and other materials that are required to be used within a classroom are the responsibility of the board, okay? It does not apply to research materials or any kind of free materials that are optional that may be available. So if a teacher assigns A Tale of Two Cities or another novel to be read in English language arts, then in fact that is a book that would have to be approved even though it's not a standard text. Okay? The laws that was passed that created this was done in 1967. Certainly, it did not foretell all the digital options that are now available and routinely used in classrooms, but the spirit of the law applies such that any materials that are assigned that are digital in nature must also be approved by the full Board of Education. Okay? New Jersey has had a very long-standing tradition of leading the nation in education, and in doing so by establishing educational standards going back to the 1970s. They have had different names over time, but New Jersey has had educational standards in place since the 1970s. The latest iteration are called New Jersey Student Learning Standards. Those New Jersey Student Learning Standards refer to all of those areas that you can read up there: career readiness, comprehensive health and phys ed, computer science, design thinking, and then what we would typically say, science, social studies, visual and performing arts, world language. Those are all pieces that are found in the New Jersey Student Learning Standards. Interestingly enough, the Senate Education Committee just this week is exploring adopting a new standard on information literacy. That hasn't yet been adopted, but it is something that they are seriously looking at to ensure that students have those technological skills that they're going to need for the 21st, and for some of them who are very young, the 22nd century moving forward, okay? There also is the term up there, QSAC, and it's generally called New Jersey QSAC, which is Quality Single Accountability Continuum. And it's up there because it is the state's monitoring system for every school district across the state of New Jersey. There are a number of performance review areas within QSAC that the state looks at. Primarily, the one we're talking about this evening is around instruction and program, and then also around access to library and technology as it relates to the curriculum. So the state comes in and looks at all of the pieces within your curriculum, within your technology, the access to library and media for students, and it will give this each district a score. And that occurs every 3 years, and it's how the state monitors every school district. So the New Jersey Student Learning Standards were originally determined, the revisions that you are dealing with, to be implemented in September of 2020. They were postponed by virtue of COVID, and so the school districts primarily are still using the standards that are aligned to 2014, or some districts this year did go to the 2020 New Jersey Student Learning Standards. But every school district must, by September of this coming, by 3 months from now, vacation will be over before I know it, they must implement the new standards, okay? And there you can see all of the areas that are covered by the New Jersey Student Learning Standards. These standards are a blueprint for your district's educators to develop age-appropriate and grade-level appropriate curriculum for your students and your community. They do not in any way mandate a specific set of instructions or curriculum or required materials. Those are all district designed. They provide the guideposts that the districts must follow, but there is no such thing as a state mandated curriculum or a state approved textbook. That is not how New Jersey operates. There are states that do dictate textbooks, but New Jersey, and a curriculum, but New Jersey is not one of those states. Okay? So as representatives of your community, your board members have an obligation, a duty to see that your aspirations and hopes for your children are translated into the reality. And that happens through instruction. And the instruction is built around the curriculum. So you need to know and be clear that this, while the standards exist, they are not mandates, they are not a curriculum. Okay? They are what students need to know when they leave a particular grade level. Okay? So this is very difficult to read, but it shows you that in grade 2, grade 5, grade 8, and grade 12, there are expectations around various parts of the curriculum. And so my goal tonight was to talk a little bit about the standards and the sample HPE, health and phys ed, particularly as it applies to social and sexual health. And this comes right from the standard by the end of grade 2. If you have not read them, every individual has unique skills and qualities, which can include the activities they enjoy. Families shape the way we think about our bodies, our health, and our behaviors. People have relationships with others in the local community and beyond. Communication is the basis for strengthening relationships and resolving conflicts. Conflicts occur between people, and there are effective ways to resolve them. So by the end of the second grade, the expectation is that in their health and PE courses, these are the concepts that will be taught, but how they get taught and the manner in which they are taught is designed by your individual school district. Okay? So here is the core idea. Again, it's just reconfigured a little differently, but they will tell you that these are the various component pieces. The indicators determine the factors that contribute to healthy relationships within a family. So a child should be able to articulate that by the end of the second grade. Okay. Here is one that is in the 5th grade. Puberty is a time of physical, social, and emotional changes. And there is the performance expectation. I'm not going to read it to you, but you can read it. Romantic and sexual feelings, masturbation, mood swings, and timing of pubertal onset are in parentheses. The reason I am reading that piece to you is that the commissioner has issued a memo to all school districts that anything that is in parentheses in terms of the performance indicators are not required concepts that must be taught in classes. They are merely examples, and school district curriculum does not need to include those specific words or concepts. And so I wanted to share that with you because some of these pieces have not really been clearly articulated in the press, and not easy to discern if you're not involved sort of in the educational landscape on a routine basis, okay? So that's just to be designed to help you know that the design of the curriculum and curriculum work will be done over the summer. Teachers generally do curriculum work and write curricula over the summer months. Those areas that are being revised and updated will be done for September, prior to September actually, of this year, and be available to all of you. Okay? Another piece that I think is important for community members to know and recognize, and this statute actually goes back to 1980, was when it was first enacted. So it has been in place, again, since 1980 in the state of New Jersey, and that permits any parent or guardian of a child in a school district that has an objection to instruction in any part of the health, family life education, or sex education that they find is in conflict with their conscience or their moral or religious beliefs, can be automatically excuse their child from participating in that portion of the curriculum. And so there is no obligation for your child to sit in a class on these topics if you find that material objectionable. You simply have to notify the school and they will be opted out of that portion of the class. Again, that has been in place since 1980. So that is not a change and it continues. And parents routinely use it. They did when my kids were in school as well. New Jersey social and emotional learning are competencies and sub-competencies that are also part and parcel of your broader curriculum. They speak to a child's self-awareness, giving them agency and voice to be able to share their feelings and their intent. Self-management, certainly being able to work with others and control their behavior within a classroom setting and be appropriate, whether it's on the playground, in the lunchroom, in the classroom. All of those pieces are important. Social awareness, recognizing and identifying that other people may have different perspectives than they do, and understanding that that is the way the world is. Demonstrating an awareness that, an understanding that even if people are different, we need to extend respect and kindness to all people. I love the Kindness Club. Those kids were absolutely wonderful. It's so nice to see them. Responsible decision-making, again, making sure that students have the opportunity to develop those kinds of critical thinking skills to be able to make good decisions that will keep them safe, healthy, and well. And then there's relationship skills, recognizing that we work together as groups of folks, no matter what we do, whether it's in the classroom, in the workplace, in neighborhoods, utilizing positive communication skills. All of those pieces are essential to a well-rounded child who are going, and your seniors who spoke, your student reps were so wonderful. Clearly they are very articulate and capable, and that's what is wonderful to see coming out of a school district, okay? Additionally, the board is responsible for providing an equitable education to all students. Education is a public good, and the board has an obligation to provide access to the entire curriculum for all students. So while the health curriculum may not be everyone's cup of tea, and you may wish to opt your child out, the board has an obligation to provide that program for all students. And so that is something that we generally don't think of the standards in that sense, but it really is making sure that all children have access to every every aspect of the curriculum. The Board of Education is responsible every 3 years to develop a new equity plan to make sure that all of their hiring policies, practices, programs, curriculum, facilities are all equitable, meaning that every child has the opportunity to be successful. And that really is what educational equity is. It's just ensuring that all students are provided with the opportunities to ensure that he or she reaches his or her potential by having access to every opportunity that can be provided within the school system. So just in closing, the board's role is to approve what is being taught, but your administration and your educational experts and leaders are going to develop a curriculum that they will approve, and then to monitor the process to ensure that what is being taught is being learned. And we do that through evaluations, through assessments, to ensure that your children are learning those skills, the knowledge that they need to be successful. And then ensuring through the development of the budget, right, that there are adequate resources to provide for the educational and co-curricular program within your school district. And they do that through the budget on an annual basis, making sure that there are funds to support the educational and co-curricular program. So I'd be happy to answer any questions from board members before I let you return to your regular agenda. Sure. I will turn that back over to you. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome.
As board members sit down and we can have questions with Gwen, I do just want to thank you for coming this evening and walking us through this presentation. As you know, this has been a topic of discussion at board meetings across the state as well as right here at our own, so we do certainly appreciate the information you've provided. Having said that, are there board members that have questions? Yep.
Thanks again, Gwen, for being here. Just a quick question, because it is something that has come up in the public, not just at our board meetings, but other board meetings. The notion of opting out versus opting in and the board's responsibility in that capacity.
Well, the board is obligated to have your curriculum aligned to the standards. That's not optional. They have made the exception for the health curriculum by design, understanding that that is a topic that many people have very strong feelings about and raises a lot of, concerns, certainly. In light of that, they have allowed that option, but you cannot opt out of the history curriculum, the English language arts curriculum, the mathematics curriculum. Those standards are specific for every district.
So I just want to clarify that the notion is that this must be provided to all students with only the option to opt out.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Gwen, with that being said, I understand the opt-out, it's been around since the 70s, but is there a way that we have an opportunity to change that and add to it maybe like an opt-in so that...
It's a statutory requirement, and it would require the legislature to change it.
So we're not allowed to add to that in addition to the opt-out?
No, you're not.
Okay.
You're required as a Board of Education to follow the law as it is written. Now, if the legislature changes it, then you might have different options, but currently that's not an available choice.
Okay, thank you.
Gwen, and thank you again.
You're welcome.
And you mentioned everything in parentheses is not necessarily mandated, right?
Correct.
How would you recommend, with public feedback, and we put a survey out to everybody, I think we're still waiting to gather that information and review it. How would you recommend the board, if at all, guide those who are writing the curriculum to reflect the public and what is mandated versus not? What is the board's opportunity there?
I think you have to depend on your educational experts who work as well as your oversight role in reviewing it once it's developed as a Board of Education to reflect those values and aspirations of your community. And keep in mind that as many people as are sitting here, there are probably that many different perspectives on what's appropriate and what might not be appropriate. And the Board of Education, while you have to reflect your community's aspirations, at the same time, you have to provide opportunities for all students who may hold a different perspective to have access, which is really why that opt-out piece exists, right? Because if you find it objectionable, not you personally, but someone, then you have that chance to do that with your family, right? You are parents. As parents are always their child's first and best advocate. And so they have to make decisions individually on what's best for their child. And I truly believe that. But at the same time, the Board of Education has an obligation to provide a broad education, providing options for all children, right? And so because there are different perspectives, educators want to provide age-appropriate information that is helpful to all students, but achieving widespread universal agreement on what that looks like is almost impossible within any community because there are going to be so many opinions. But I think what's important is to let your educational leaders, your teachers, guide your understanding of what is being taught, why it's being taught, and how it's being taught.
Just a quick follow-up. So I'm sure everybody knows that there are some districts who and I'm not sure the mechanism, but decided not to adopt certain standards.
Actually, what they approved, and there's one school district in the state, what they approved was not, the resolution when you read it, is that they were not going to implement the state mandated curriculum. Newsflash, there is no state mandated curriculum. So in essence, what they approved as a resolution has little, if any, impact.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point of clarity because, as we're voting on things like this, and then you see like something like that, you wonder what the impact is or what the reality of anything like that.
The reality is it was meaningless, quite frankly.
So today, I'm assuming all districts go through the same process. They're now getting ready to have the teachers write or adopt certain curriculum.
Yes, they do. All school districts will be going through that process in every one of the standard areas, if they haven't already done so.
Is just one more. So is there a blanket, you brought up QSAC scores and things like that. Is there a blanket sort of scoring system for social and sexual health that, let's say,
No, not in QSAC. No.
So it's not like
it measures your entire curriculum.
Okay.
Okay, and student assessments and alignment to the standards. Not one facet of one standard.
So it's not like 5 points for this.
No.
5 points. Okay.
No.
So Gwen, as the teachers are getting ready to write the curriculum, so just a question as we were talking about the surveys and things of that nature, as far as what's best for our community, will we have an opportunity as it's being written to kind of guide, or how does that work as far as...
That's the day-to-day administration of the school district, of your professional educators, and not the responsibility of the board. Certainly you will have an opportunity, I'm sure, to review it, and it will be available. I would encourage, and most boards have, and I would continue to encourage boards to post their curriculums and on their websites so that that's available for not only the board, but also for your community. And many districts actually began doing that as a result of COVID, because so many people were working remotely in order to give staff access to all of it on a regular basis. It may not be front-facing currently and had access to the public, and not all boards have done it either, but many have. So it's not as heavy a lift as it might sound to have that all up by September, but it is a significant amount of work if that work hasn't begun.
Okay, thank you.
Gwen, I certainly appreciated the way you summarized the duty of the BOE, and that was to see that the community educational expectations are met. Mm-hmm. And I would imagine one of the primary ways for us as board members to do that is through the surveys that the district was great about conducting to get the feedback from as many community members as possible who want to comment. I guess just to be clear, Gretchen, I was just wondering if we could have clarity around the due date, because I know I personally had people ask questions. So if you could just remind everyone what the due date for that survey is.
And I don't know that we have a specific due date. I believe Colleen is going to speak to that in a little bit, but our intent was to leave it up certainly through the end of June. We can leave it up into July as well. We are in the process of putting a link up on the website as well, and it will be in the Friday folder again this week. We want to hear from as many people who want to weigh in. The challenge is that based on the feedback we've received so far, it pretty much runs the gamut. So in any, if our intent was to find some consensus, that would be a hard task.
Gwen, could I just ask you to also explain a bit further for the public, if the district were to not implement the curriculum, which I know is a state mandate, what would be the downstream effects in terms of CUSAC, and then how that may implement any funding in the future or anything like that?
So every one of the 5 district performance review areas of CUSAC has 100 points. If you fall below 80 points in any one of those areas, there are a series of escalating steps, including and up to imposition of a monitor from the state within the district. I'm not suggesting that that's happening here, but there are a series of first would be a corrective action plan. I mean, there are a whole host of corrective steps before you would get to that. But a state monitor, once put into a district, can actually overturn a decision of the board. So that's not something you ever want to see happen.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time and attention. I wish you all a lovely, peaceful, quiet, healthy summer. And if you need anything, you all know how to find me. So thank you.
Thank you, Gwen.
Thank you, Gwen. Before we go on, I just want to take a moment to talk about some topics that may come up this evening, as well as share some reflection after our last meeting. I've heard from a number of parents that are concerned about the number of sections planned for 3rd grade at Bedwell next year. As I have indicated to all who have inquired, we continue to monitor numbers over the course of the summer at all grade levels to keep tabs on our plans. The board updated their regulations surrounding class sizes as recently as February 2020, and our plans currently align with these guidelines. Placement conversations at Bedwell have prepared for both 5 and 6 sections, and we are prepared to make a final decision before the end of July, which will be communicated out to families. As shared during the March budget presentation, salaries and benefits for staff in the district is the largest part of our budget, coming in at $33 million and representing about 76% of the general fund. And the district will continue to make careful staffing decisions to best serve all students K-12. Another arena in which I have heard conversation in regards to staffing next year is the music program. The district has always had a robust music program, which has been a source of pride and inspiration for many students. As we bid a fond farewell to our beloved Mr. Trumpy, it's natural that there would be concerns surrounding the shoes he leaves. Trust that our visual performing arts supervisor, Lindsay Barner, is busy working through the needs and the applicants to do her best to identify our candidate. Lastly, in a moment, I'm going to ask Dr. Butler to speak about the health survey that she recently launched. In regards to public comments from the last meeting surrounding what was dubbed by one member of the public as our failing school system. When it comes to grade schools, I understand that higher numbers are seen by some as more attractive on Zillow. I live here, and these numbers have the potential to impact my family in the same way they can impact others. We know that informed buyers are probably doing other research too. They may look at Nisha's rating, where Somerset Hills Regional is ranked number 3 in the county with an overall score of A+. Or they may reference School Digger, which interestingly seems to have accessed our Start Strong performance from the fall, as they show the district's performance increasing under my leadership almost 8% from 2017 to 2021. Informed buyers may also stop parents around town, visit our schools, ask local realtors about their children's experiences in our schools, or view our board meetings online. Anecdotally, I can share that not too long ago, I spoke to a parent that has had multiple children go through the district. Her sister was looking to move into the area and was considering houses in Bernards Township, and the mom I knew strongly advised her sister to consider SHSD rather than Bernards Township, preferring the intimacy of our district and touting the fact that teachers and administrators in Somerset Hills K-12 all knew her children and her family, who they were, what they liked, and what they needed. She shared that each of her children was happy in school and successful after graduating. And where did her sister end up moving? Bernardsville. And if we're talking about the community from a standpoint of attracting new buyers, I must share that the 2 most recent house sales on my street were both put to bed in one weekend with prices way over asking. However, there are members of the public who clearly called for a commitment to increasing the district's scores on grade schools. We heard about neighboring districts with scores significantly higher than ours. For ease of comparison, I will limit my comments here to one of those mentioned, which was Mendham. If you look at their scores and compare them to ours, there's no doubt that they are higher, with an elementary school score of 8, a middle school score of 9, and a high school score of 8 as compared to SHSD scores of 5, 6, and 5. A closer look reveals that Mendham's elementary school's 8 is a summative reflection of a 9 in test scores and a 7 in student progress, and their middle school's 9 is a summative reflection of a 10 in test scores and a 9 in student progress. And SHSD scores reflect not only test scores and student progress, but another metric, one that was added to grade schools in 2017. I'll get to that in a minute. Now, grade schools has historically been a measure of performance on standardized tests, but according to a 2019 report by the Education News website Chalkbeat, grade schools overhauled its rating system in 2017 to, and I quote, more accurately reflect what's going on in the school besides just its demographics. But you may wonder, I thought we were talking about test scores, so what does the rating have to do with demographics? Well, the same report found grade schools generally gave significantly higher ratings to schools serving more affluent, whiter student bodies. So let's consider. New user performance report data indicates that Mendham's elementary and middle schools are about 85 to 86% white, while Bedwell and the middle school are about 67% white. The economically disadvantaged population in each school in Mendham is about 2%, while this number at Bedwell is 16%, and the middle school is 10%. And while this is not necessarily proof of what the Chalkbeat reporters stated, it certainly seems to align with their findings. So let's get back to how grade schools changed their metrics in 2017 to reflect demographics. I shared how Mendham's test scores and student progress figures were combined to develop their final summative numerical scores, and I indicated that SHSD schools include another metric. In addition to test scores and student progress, all 3 of our schools have a measure of equity, and for all of our schools, these are the lowest numbers contributing to our summative scores. So it would seem if we could improve our equity scores, it would stand to reason that we can improve our grade school scores. According to grade schools, a low equity rating means, and I quote, "The test scores of low income and other disadvantaged groups are much lower than those of other students at the school." And according to grade schools, and I quote again, "Equity is a measure that matters to everyone." To help people further understand equity, Grade Schools has an equity toolkit that encourages communities to ask certain questions to better understand the issues at hand. Among these are, how are schools responding to gaps in achievement? Since I became superintendent, we have implemented summer support programs and after-school programs to support identified students. This year, we used federal Title I funds to hire a bilingual elementary teacher at Bedwell to further promote communication with home to support students' successes. And we are using federal ESSER and ARD funds to launch new after-school and summer programs to work toward narrowing opportunity gaps. Another question grade school prompts people to ask is, how are teachers trained to help them hold all children to high standards? The district continues to offer professional development to teachers in all content areas. Last year, we reimbursed teachers collectively $165,000 for their tuition reimbursement. We also continue to offer professional development in shelter instruction, an approach that leverages content-driven instruction to make learning accessible while promoting language usage. And recently, the board approved additional equity training for 3 administrators to turnkey approaches to train teachers to help all children succeed. Another question grade school challenges people to ask is, how is progress measured to ensure that all students are learning? Since I became superintendent, the district has adopted iReady benchmark assessments in both reading and mathematics to gauge student learning. These nationally normed standards-aligned benchmarks serve as a means to universally measure the learning of all K-8 students 3 times a year to ensure all students are making progress and that supports are appropriate. When your children return home from school each day, it's not unusual for parents to ask about their days. They are typically interested in everything that makes up their child's experience at school. Academic successes or challenges, interactions with teachers and peers, sports, the arts, clubs, friends, lunch, social events, and their children's feelings about all of these things. This aligns with feedback we received through both the 2017 and more recent 2021 strategic planning sessions, in which the community expressed collective interest in our sports fields, our buildings, our technology offerings, the ways in which students are being prepared for life after high school, the ways in which students are engaged in learning experiences, the way in which we keep our students physically safe, the ways in which we support our students emotionally. Did the topic of public perception of school ratings come up? Yes, it did. Did anybody indicate that it was all that mattered? Absolutely not. For just as a grade teacher would never reduce your child to a single test score, so must a grade school community realize that a single metric is never all that defines us. If we want all of our students to learn, to grow, to make their marks on the world, we must first make sure that we see them, what each one needs, and deserves, and let that drive our actions. In this district, we serve students that are wealthy, those are economically disadvantaged, and those that are everywhere in between. These students may identify as white, Hispanic, Black, Asian, or mixed race. They may see themselves as straight, gay, lesbian, or bi, as male or female, as trans, queer, questioning, or non-binary. Perhaps they're religious, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Quaker, Sikh, or unaffiliated. They may see themselves as Republicans or Democrats or independents, as athletes who love video games, as mathematicians who play the cello, or as creative writers who are dedicated to community service. This district has always supported its students. That is what we are here for. Whoever they are, however they see themselves, and how they see themselves being now, and who they are becoming. From my seat, that is what has always made us a great school. Okay, ask Dr. Butler if she has anything to add to that.
Thanks, Dr. Dempsey. I have a few things I want to talk about, but I would be remiss if I did not begin by offering my congratulations to all of our retirees and to the others celebrated tonight, with a special shout out to the members of the Kindness Club. Their work inspires me every day. As the board knows, the district is obligated by the state to annually appoint an affirmative action officer. The affirmative action officer is tasked with coordinating and implementing the district's efforts to comply with state affirmative regulations and to promote a working and learning environment free of discrimination and harassment on the basis of race, creed, color, national origin, ancestry, age, marital status, affectional or sexual orientation, gender, religion, disability, or socioeconomic status. I know there have been questions from the public and some board members about these efforts. I'm your affirmative action officer, and I take the jobs you task me with very seriously. And I also take the safety and well-being of all of our students very seriously. I know I speak for the administration, and I believe really for the district, when I say we believe in equity and belonging for all, and that we would be concerned if all students did not enjoy a sense of belonging or equitable access to education here in our schools. I would hope that we will all do everything we can to work together to provide these unalienable rights for all of our students, and I hope that our community joins us in this important work. I say this because at the last meeting, a community member mentioned concern for a subset of our graduates in their post-college job search. Gender identification was mentioned as something that might cause a potential employer concern. I would encourage all with similar concerns to look at the websites of some of the companies that were mentioned, such as Apple and Amazon. I'll just share a few quotes from their websites. Amazon notes, "We are a company of builders who bring varying backgrounds, ideas, and points of view to inventing on behalf of our customers. Our diverse perspectives come from many sources, including gender, race, age, national origin, sexual orientation, culture, education, and professional and life experience. We are committed to diversity and inclusion and always look for ways to scale our impact as we grow." Amazon earned a perfect score on the Human Rights Campaign's Corporate Equality Index for the 5th year in a row, ranking it among the best places to work for LGBTQ equality. Human Rights Campaign rankings include workplace protections, inclusive benefits, and supporting an inclusive culture. Apple notes that to create products for everyone in the world, we need a workforce with diverse backgrounds and experiences. We're making continuous progress in building an Apple community that represents the diverse and ever-changing world we live in, and we're committed to far more. All of our hiring managers and recruiters receive training in inclusive hiring practices. These trainings help mitigate inherent biases and create more consistent hiring experiences for all. Inclusive hiring training is our practice globally. We've built inclusion and diversity measures into our candidate assessment framework, and we continue to make progress toward our goal of having more diverse interview panels and candidates so that diversity is reflected at every stage of the hiring process. The message I would like all of our students to hear tonight is that you are all seen and supported. You matter. You are the ones we are here for. You are our North Star, and you should be proud of who you are. Apple and Amazon would be lucky to get you. The message I would like our community to hear tonight is that our students are watching and listening to you, so please be respectful of all of them and join us. Let's work together as we continue to strive to make Somerset Hills a place that we can all be proud of, and we can all call it great schools. Did you want me to? Okay. The next item I wanted to comment on, I told you I had a few different things, a little diverse. I want to comment upon are the New Jersey Comprehensive Health and Physical Education Standards. Thank you to Gwen for providing some general information this evening. New Jersey School Boards actually has very interesting information on their website regarding the history of public education in New Jersey. And one interesting aspect of the timeline includes when physical education was actually added to our K-12 studies. In 1960, 2017, spurred on by the low standards that they were seeing of physical fitness observed among entrants to the U.S. Army during World War I, the state passed a law establishing physical training for all school students except kindergarten students. The standards are updated routinely as necessary. The state looks at public health information to inform additions to the required standards. Another example is the Lyme disease prevention curriculum that was added a few years ago. It emphasizes disease prevention and sensitivity for victims of the disease. It was added because of the rise in victims of Lyme disease in New Jersey. The state added new standards in 2020 that will go into effect this coming school year. So with all of our curriculum, it will be written over the summer by our teachers, reviewed and approved by the department supervisor and the board. I know many would like to view the curriculum prior to your summer break, but our teachers are currently teaching this year's curriculum. The teachers and the health and PE supervisor, Mr. Hoppy, had an opportunity to work with teachers from across the county as they all prepared for the work they will do this summer. We also sent out a link to the new standards and a survey so that we could hear from parents. We sent that out in the Friday folder, which is our official means of communication. We wanted to be sure you know you are heard. We read the survey results daily, and we welcome your feedback. Because of your feedback, we've already added some things. We added the link to our homepage. We've updated the survey to include a spot for parents of incoming kindergartners to read the standards and express their opinions. The survey will remain open for several more weeks, or as long as we need it to. This feedback will help us to inform the presentation that we will give in August. We're also working on developing a system by which you will be able to view all of our curriculum online. We've heard from parents who have concerns and will be opting out of health, as is their right. And we have heard from parents who have no concerns and who are looking forward to the additions. We've also heard from a few parents who have not yet made up their minds and need more information. We will be sharing more information as it becomes available, and parents can reach out to their child's teacher, the principal of the school, Mr. Hoppy, or myself with questions after the August meeting. There will be ample time to opt out, and all will be receiving information about that process, which we will work to ensure is very clear. That's all I have. Kristen, I think, are you up next? Did you have anything else? I'm sorry, did you have anything else, Dr. Dempsey?
No. I think we've said enough for one meeting. I will turn it back over to you, Heather.
Thank you. And I'm very appreciative for the detailed information that you have provided. So thank you, and I hope the public and the board is, you've given us a lot to digest, so we certainly appreciate that. And yes, Kristen, you are going to take care of retirements. Yes. Thank you. Sorry.
Whereas Hong Peng Yabeng has been employed from July 2005 as a custodian, and whereas Hong Peng Yabeng exemplified expertise, commitment, and professionalism in his duties, now therefore be it resolved, the Somerset Hills School District and Board of Education recognizes Hong Peng Yabeng's retirement effective August 1st, 2022, and extend him congratulations and best wishes for a happy, healthy, and enjoyable retirement. Whereas Lisa Drew has been employed from September 2007 as a middle school social studies teacher and more recently as a student assistance coordinator at BHS. And whereas Lisa Drew exemplified expertise, commitment, and professionalism in her duties, now therefore be it resolved, the Somerset Hills School District and Board of Education recognize Lisa Drew's retirement effective July 1st, 2022, and extend her congratulations and best wishes for a happy, healthy, and enjoyable retirement.
Thank you, Mrs. DeGrandpre. Public comments for actionable agenda items. We very much welcome input from the public. Public comments are welcome at this time on any actionable agenda item. Towards the end of the meeting, there is a second public forum on any topic. Please state your name and address. Comments are limited to 3 minutes, but an individual may speak a second time after all others who wish to speak on the topic have been heard. Please understand that our public forums are not structured as question and answer sessions, but are offered as opportunities to share your thoughts with the board. In instances where the board feels that there is a misunderstanding or inaccuracy, the board president or superintendent may address the comment. In accordance with New Jersey statute, the board will not discuss matters regarding specific personnel. Public comments will be limited to 30 minutes. We thank you for your input, and as always, we ask that everybody is respectful to all commenters.
Hi, before I speak, am I able to speak on the curriculum that you all just talked about? Is that part of this, or is that later public comment?
It is on the addendum as a curriculum writing action, so I would say you're allowed to speak about it.
All right, thank you. Hi, my name is Michelle Dooley. I live at 8 Olcott Avenue. There's been some recent misinformation being shared about how our state standards will include diversity, equity, and inclusion in the classroom in the coming fall. I'm a parent in this district, and I teach in another. As a teacher and a parent, I really wanted to understand what changes were coming. So like most educators, I went to the standards. I would like to share them with all of you. Starting in kindergarten through second grade, the concepts and core ideas state that every individual has unique skills, qualities, which can include the activities they enjoy, such as how they may dress, their mannerisms, or things they like to do. Sample lessons from the state include exploring gender stereotypes. For example, all girls like pink and boys like blue. I'm a girl, I like blue. I have a friend who's a boy, he likes purple. There's also a lesson about how families are the same and different. Some kids have a mom and a dad, some have a single parent, and some have two moms, and some are raised by grandparents. The state describes another lesson about what makes holidays special and what makes us all unique. Other lessons examine what students know about physical disabilities and the issues of fairness and accessibility. By the end of 8th grade, the core concepts and ideas state that all individuals should feel welcome and included regardless of their gender, gender expression, or sexual orientation. Inclusive schools and communities are accepting of all people and make them feel welcome and included. There is a sample lesson where students examine gender stereotypes in the media. Kids can discuss different toys and if they're for boys, girls, or all genders. Another lesson explores immigrant stories and the rich tapestry of religion in the United States. My goal in sharing this information with you tonight is to put a spotlight on the actual content being delivered in our schools. If you too want to learn more about this law and the standards, Google Diversity and Inclusive Resources New Jersey. The district has also shared this information in the link that was found in the Friday folder. A professor and teacher of children's literature, Dr. Bishop, has said, children need windows and mirrors. They need mirrors in which to see themselves and windows through which to see the world. I support our superintendent, curriculum directors, principal, and most of all teachers as they incorporate diversity, equity, and inclusion in the classrooms next year. I trust that they will teach the standards in age-appropriate ways as teachers have always done. These updated standards now provide windows and mirrors for all students and families in our community. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. We appreciate you coming. I will just note, because I forgot to note it before, we will hold up a sign at 30 seconds just to let you know you have 30 seconds left. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Hi, I'm Megan Dooley. My pronouns are she, her. I don't live in the district, but I have been a proud counselor here since 2009. I also have the distinct honor and privilege of serving one of the high school's GSA advisors this school year. In light of much of what was said in last month's public comments regarding the new health and PE learning standards, I wanted to take a moment to discuss some of what these new standards are and a few things that they are not. The standards are an opportunity for children to learn the proper medical terms for their anatomy. This way they are able to appropriately speak up for medical or health needs. Experts say knowing proper terminology can also make children less vulnerable to sexual abuse. And in the horrific case of abuse, it gives them words to tell a trusted adult what happened. Plus, it can instill in children a sense of confidence and body positivity. The standards are, too, a recognition that there are people of all different genders and sexualities, and that families come in various forms and structures. They're a way to have each student not only see their own identity reflected, but to also open students' eyes to identities beyond their own. Medical professionals assert that children typically have a firm sense of their own gender identity by around age 4. So certainly these standards are not, as was suggested last month, asking students to reconsider their own identities, but rather to have an understanding of self and others. I also would have thought that it could go without saying that there is absolutely no suggestion in the new standards that elementary age students learn about oral and anal sex. Rather, they do suggest that by the end of 8th grade, students should be able to define oral, anal, and vaginal sex, which again, it should go without saying that this does not mean that there will be explicit tutorials. The truth is, students have long been expected to define sex at this stage of development. The difference is that under an outdated curriculum, this was a narrow definition that only considered heterosexual norms. Health curricula have been cis and heteronormative for decades, leaving so many young people with questions and without equal access to an education meant to help them make informed, healthy choices. And to my knowledge, this has never turned a student cisgender or straight. Ultimately, the updated learning standards are an expansion to ensure that all identities are taught, respected, included. A wise friend of mine often reminds us that the opposite of inclusion is exclusion. For far too long, too many of our students have been left out of the health curriculum. So as this district develops health curricula in line with the state's new learning standards, I trust that it will be in a way that supports, represents, affirms, respects, includes students of all identities and family backgrounds, because this is the bare minimum for creating a safe learning environment for all. And as we know, a safe learning space is necessary for continuing a tradition of academic excellence. Thank you.
Thank you for coming and for your comments.
Hi, Christina Ballas, 15 Old Fort Road. Dr. Dempsey, you stole a little bit of my thunder. So I came here to talk about a few things. Later on, I'll talk about stuff from the heart. I wanted to address some issues about curriculum and the greatschools.org data. I am a data nerd and an operations professional that works for a major corporation. And I, too, wanted to point out that one of the deficits to our mid-range score, which I do not think is a great score. Just to let you know, I always was striving for that A student. I was always the nerd in the front of the classroom. And so I would like to be the best possible. However, when you look at the data, yes, equity is the lowest possible score almost. We have a 2 out of 10. And so the bare minimum we should do is allow our teachers and approve our teachers to take DE&I training courses. And as a professional in a major organization that supports hiring and, HR practices for all types of people, I am required to take a DE&I training every year. My husband, who works in a completely different industry and company, also has to take DE&I training. And so major corporations and businesses that run our economy all support that. And so the fact that a month ago somebody was suggesting that we should not do that, or it's some sort of guise of critical race theory, was just so absurd to me. And I just wanted to be the voice and say that all major corporations doing this, and if we're looking at our district as a business case and how to improve things, and if we're talking about home values and you're talking about finances in that way, then we should look at this like a business, and we should look at our biggest gap in our score, which is equity, and try to shrink that gap and improve our scores. And that's the fastest, easiest way for us to improve our scores on Zillow. And yes, I did move to this district years ago, and I did do my due diligence, and I did not rely on Zillow scores for greatschools.org because it's an arbitrary system. For those that want to, we should improve those scores, which the lowest gap again is in equity. But I did look at niche, and I did talk to other parents, and I was an informed buyer, and I could have chosen to move to any town within a 45-minute radius to make my commute more enjoyable. And I chose this town because of the beautiful downtown
downtown, as well as our amazing schools, and I have not been disappointed. So I'm here to say thank you and to support our diversity, equity, and inclusion as part of the curricula in the future. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, if there are no more public comments at this moment, can I have a motion? Oh, I'm sorry. It's a longer walk, sorry.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tacey Quinn, and my family lives in Bernardsville on Old Army Road. We have a child at Bedwell and a child at BMS, and I wanted to thank the board, I wanted to thank the teachers and the staff for a wonderful year. I am very happy with my children's experience at both schools, academically, socially, all of it. Is there room for improvement? Of course, as with all things, but many of the negative public statements I've heard at these meetings don't reflect my experience. And because those voices are getting louder and more extreme, I think it's important to show up and voice the many positive
Mrs.
things.
Quinn, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
Is this tied to an actionable agenda item?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Okay.
I'll
Okay,
get
thank
there.
you.
I'll get
All
there right now. I just wanted to say that over the last 2 years, I have had the opportunity to experience the wonderful ways that teachers and parents get to work together to create this community. And it is this community that I trust when it comes to the proposed health curriculum. And I reviewed the materials, and I appreciate that there's an option to opt out. But for our family, I'm confident that this is a good thing in the hands of our educators. And I'm glad that our boys will get this information from professional educators. And I will, of course, pair that with home conversations. I just wanted to note that both of my boys play baseball. And the conversations and sexual jokes and comments I overhear around Kiwanis, where the kids run wild, can be eye-popping. And let me be clear, these are not things coming from bad kids. They are kids. They're all 13 years and younger, 13 years old and younger, and this is my point. They are hearing things from kids, they're repeating things from kids, and they're learning things from fellow kids. And I think it's very important to get the factual, accurate information from professional educators who reinforce understanding and facts and respect. You can't really respect something or each other if you don't have understanding. So, getting that understanding doesn't mean my child is suddenly going to change who they are. It's quite the opposite, as we've heard. It's just going to encourage self-awareness and confidence. So, I support the efforts to ensure that our children are prepared for today's world and the knowledge and the empathy that it requires. And I said there are areas for improvement, so I'm eager to get back to civil discussions in those areas instead of the division I've been seeing. So I just wanted to thank you again for helping my children thrive in this school district. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, if there's no more public comment at the moment,
Good evening. Can you hear me okay? I'm going to introduce myself by my pronouns. You can refer to me as Your Royal Highness, and I hail from Bedminster. I'd like to address some
excuse me,
comments.
sir, can you please state your name?
You can call me Your Royal Highness. These are my pronouns. Let me begin. We're discussing...
No, we're asking you to state your...
That is my truth,
sir.
And you will respect me.
I am respecting you, and as part of your respect for the stating is that...
Highness.
Well, Your Royal Highness, we need your royal name.
That is my name. And
That is not your name, sir.
Accept my truth.
Sir.
Please don't interrupt and take away...
I'm going to continue to interrupt until you tell us a name. That is part of the board policy.
They also refer to me as Your Majesty. So I'm going to continue to say...
Will you turn the microphone off? We are going to ask you...
really loud. I don't need it.
We are going to ask you again
to give us your real name and your address for the record.
As your Royal Highness, that is my pronoun.
Sir.
Accept my truth.
The board policy requires that you identify yourself by name and where you
So
live.
discriminatory and unaccepting.
If you're going to continue to disrupt the meeting, I'm going to ask the officers to remove you.
My time.
I'm not taking up your time, sir. I'm asking you to state your name for the record. You can call yourself your Royal Highness all you want. I don't really care about that. I'm just asking you.
My truth. I can't believe you're in your position that you can disrespect someone by their chosen pronoun.
That is not a pronoun, sir. It is an adjective. It is a title. And all I have asked is that you state your name for the record. And then you can call yourself your Royal Highness all you want. It doesn't really matter.
Call me they, them, your Royal Highness. Let me continue.
No, you are not going to continue until you follow the board policy and state your name for the record.
I can sit here all night.
I can too.
So let's do it.
Absolutely, let's go. You have 3 minutes. Did you set the timer?
I want to address some of the comments.
I have stated to you now at least 10 times that you state your name for the record.
Your Royal Highness.
That is not your name, sir.
Yes, it is. King Joffrey Joffer. How about that? You can refer to me as that as well.
We're going to take a recess.
I'd like to address some of the comments from the board and the attempt that the superintendent made to kind of apologize for the poor performance of her and the school district. It clearly shows she's not qualified nor capable to be superintendent. And the excuse of diversity is...
Sir, if you continue to disrupt the meeting, you're going to be asked to be removed.
I'm not disrupting the meeting. I can stay here all night. I can't believe you could be so unaccepting. Are we ready?
We are ready to resume the meeting.
Beautiful. Let me continue where I left off.
Your name, sir. Your name.
I said you're going to refer to me as Your Majesty.
We can do this all night long. I get paid by the hour.
King Edward.
Your name.
That is my name, King
Your name,
Edward.
sir.
King Edward.
Your name.
Call me King Edward. Why are you denying my truth?
Because that's not your truth. You have a name. You can have
My name, I identify as King Edward tonight. Your
Can I
Royal
please
Highness.
have some assistance from the police officers because I'm not going to stand here all day.
How much you make? What? $175 an hour? He said.
We have an entire room full of people that wish to speak.
He's holding up the meeting.
You are holding up the meeting by not complying with the board policy with the simple request that you state your name and where you live, and then you have 3 minutes.
That is my truth.
We can do this all night long. All night long.
By the hour, if you'd like us to go all night.
I really would not.
I'm going to time myself because I have to.
Sir, your name?
What are you pointing at? I'm right here. How bad?
I'm asking the officer if he might remove this gentleman.
You can start the timer. Excuse me, you have not stated your name.
As a district as we are.
The school district is not performing well, and it has all been under the leadership of Residency. And it is time for a change. And what does she have? She hired a principal for the elementary school with little to no experience. How can they be expected to turn around the poor-performing school? It has all happened under Residency's leadership, and it is time for a change. $195,000 a year for a 5 of 10 upgrade school is unacceptable. So to say that it's because of the diversity, Bensonwood has more diversity than our district, and they are performing significantly better than this school. A 5 of 10 does not cut it, and in the real world, a CEO would have been cut, and they bring in new talent to make change. That is what we meant. And in regards to the curriculum, I know you mentioned experts are going to be teaching this. How many experts do we have in our public school systems that are experts at anal sex? Was it a coincidence when you hired them, or did they raise their hand and say they are experts? I'd like to know how many they are, because that is a value, I guess, we have in our district. You still have not told us how to disseminate.
Your time is up. We thank you for your statement. Sir, we thank you for your statement. This board fully supports the work that Dr. Dempsey has done and continues to do for our district. Your time is up, sir. Good evening.
Sylvia Caggiano, 189 Washington Corner Road. Tell me if I am veering off the agenda, if you don't mind. I have a few questions about the health standards from New Jersey, from our state. If the board is unhappy with the curriculum that is written by the staff, which is hired to write one, regarding these new health standards, what happens? I know you can't answer me, but these are just questions I have. Is there time to rewrite the curriculum in regards to this subject? If not, is the board then left with no choice but to adopt a curriculum with which they are less than satisfied? In that same vein, the state arbitrarily chose grades 2nd, 5th, 8th, and 12th. And now, we all understand that curricula is geared to target students within any given grade. However, these students are on different educational levels and are taught accordingly. Did the state take the fact that students in the same grade are at different emotional and maturity levels? If not, will the district? All parents and educators know that students, even siblings within the same family, may not be at the same maturity level at the same age as their siblings. Will the district measure students' maturity level and their ability to receive very personal information prior to these concerning lessons? Now for opt-out, what will the students who have had parents opt out do with this time other than sit in the library and be told to read? Thank you.
Thank you for coming and your constructive comments.
Bob Weibel, Gladstone. The survey, I guess you're going to keep open for a little bit longer, and I'm glad that you are going to do that, because right now the survey as it was written, I mean, you have an expectation that everybody's going to go to the link and read it. I did. I read it probably 2 months ago when it first came up, when the governor first started talking about relooking at the curriculum. There's 39 headings in there. My partner goes, her daughter goes to Millstone Township. They sent a survey home, a paper one, and literally listed every one of those guidance points that's going to be on there, such as, by 2nd grade, they need to know the parts of the body, including genitals. They, need to know by 5th grade, masturbation, although that's in parentheses, and maybe they're not going to teach it. We don't know yet, but if it's there, a teacher can teach it, so let's face it. So I think the survey needs to be a little bit revamped, if you wouldn't mind, and put in there's 39 different topics. There's 8 at the 2nd grade, 7 at the 5th grade, 10 at the 8th grade, and then 14 at 12th grade. So really, I urge the board or whoever put that survey together, so parents can sit there and look at it. I felt like, there was not enough information, or I'd strongly urge the board to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Mr. Weaver. Okay, I'd like a motion to close public comment. Ian? And Nicole? Thank you. Okay. Can I have a motion for the approval of minutes?
I'll second.
Roll call, please, Mrs. Camargo. Any discussion on minutes?
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Clark Emery?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. DeGroompray?
Abstain.
Mrs. Frenda?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Ms. Nathan?
Yes for the 11th, but I need to abstain for June 2nd.
Mrs. Tober?
Yes.
Mrs. Rye?
Yes, but I need to abstain for June 2nd as well.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Okay, just want to clarify, Mrs. DeGroompray, you were just absent 511, or?
Yes, I apologize.
Okay, no,
Yes, for the
okay.
second.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Okay, before we move into committee reports this evening, I just would like to give an update on negotiations. After Shay and the board have met 5 times, we had hoped to make more progress than we have been able to at this point. And although everyone has worked diligently towards the goal of a settlement, and given that we have not been able to jointly accomplish that, we feel that the most prudent path and what is in the best interest of the district as a whole is to declare an impasse. So yesterday afternoon, we declared we were at impasse. The association and board negotiations committee feel that it's best to continue the negotiations process with the help of a mediator to bring us to resolution of these negotiations. We are hopeful that the state's Public Employment Relations Commission will appoint a mediator who will be able to meet with us this summer as we all strive to reach a fair and equitable agreement. We would now, if we can move into the finance report, Mr. Baker.
The Finance Committee met last Wednesday for a half hour. We had 5 topics of discussion. 4 were I'm going to report out, and 1 was confidential for executive session only. First item is, as you'll see on the agenda, we're going to do a lease purchase of a new 54-passenger school bus that will hopefully be delivered by September. It may not be here right at the opening of school, but if it's not, we will rent a bus from Parker, and they've been notified that may happen. So we got a good interest rate on this as 3.5% approximately, so we'll be paying about $24,000 a year for about $120,000 after 5 years for the school bus. And we feel that this will give us more transportation options going forward. The next item we talked about was the reaffirmation of residency for our 3 towns. The majority of parents have complied with providing us documentation that proves they are resident of these 3 towns. We are still lacking several families who have not responded, and the administration has sent out another letter asking that those documents be provided to us as soon as possible. Otherwise, their children will not be able to attend school in the fall. Next item, we talked about the technology department, where as part of our cybersecurity improvement. We're going to have all the staff and administration laptops and computers going to multi-factor authentication, and we've started rolling that out now. And this requires, once you put your password in, you have to get a code from either email or a cell phone. And I'm sure most of the people in the public have used that too, so we're going to start doing that over the summer. There will also be training on that because you have to teach the employees how to recognize email that is coming, trying to phish information, and how to avoid that. So we're going to have training courses, and then it will be tested. We'll actually send fake emails to various people as is done by the experts and see if they comply with your training. There's a great article in today's Wall Street Journal about that. You can read about it. I read it this afternoon. It's a wonderful expose about what cybersecurity and how this training works. The fourth item we talked about, and on the agenda, we were able to get a grant from ARP for homeless people who are our students, but since we do not have any, we were going to decline that grant. We've had homeless students in the past, but not this year, so you'll see that as resolution number 19. I'd like to move action items 1 through 23. There's three of those last items are on the addendum. Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, any questions on what I discussed or anything on the agenda?
Bob, I just have a question on the addendum, item number 23. I'm just curious, I noticed that the non-public schools didn't apply for Title I and Title III. Do you know why? Are those only for public schools? It's just more of a curiosity question.
From what I know about every time that we pass money through to the non-public schools, they have to apply for it. So I just see other things on the agenda tonight, like giving computers and cameras. So if RPA is not notified of it, then that's why it's not on there.
No, I guess I was just asking. I know that they have to pass through things through us. I was just curious if those were for public schools only, or if
No, they're for both schools. It's just that the non-public school either didn't qualify for those specific categories or chose not to ask for money for those specific categories because they have certain requirements where those monies are applied, and if they don't qualify or if they don't have a need, then they wouldn't ask it. So that's why they don't get every single category.
Is there any obligation or any...
From our district's perspective, no. It's based on what the non-publics are requesting, and it goes through Cochran's office. So we don't have a say. We just do the application on their behalf, and the money comes through us.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, we'll do a roll call then. Is there more questions?
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Clark Emery?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. DeGrandpre?
Yes.
Mrs. Frenda?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
Mrs. Tober?
Yes.
Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Rye, facility and operations, please.
F&L met last Wednesday as well. We met for an hour. All board members on the committee were in attendance with the additions of Drs. Dempsey, Butler, and Mrs. DeMarco. Discussion first went to something that was mentioned at the last meeting, which was facility rental. Outside organization, one that is not student-based, will be able to rent our facilities. If the groups are nonprofit, they will have to provide proof of their not-for-profit status and pay the approved rental fee. For all profit organizations, they will be charged the fees based on our policy. As mentioned by Mr. Baker, a small percentage of parents have yet to respond to the residency reaffirmation. I commend the work of the principals and the main office, the superintendent's office on really working very hard on this. I want to repeat what Mr. Baker said again, and so that families can understand the seriousness of it. If we do not hear from the families who have yet to respond, their children will not be allowed to attend in the fall. I have speech aphasia sometimes. We are considering doing reaffirmation with greater frequency and are looking into an automated system for reaffirmation so as to gather needed data in a more timely and efficient fashion and so as to streamline this process. We had a discussion about SNAP, which is a fundraising platform that had been used in the past. We were asked to reinstate it. As a board, we decided not to reinstate it for a number of reasons. The most particular one was because students had told us in the past that they felt uncomfortable with the degree of personal information that they were required to give in order to use SNAP. I have information on transportation, lots of great bus news. So subscription bus forms have been updated and will be sent out shortly to all involved parties with a request to return them by June 30th. Parents of rising ninth graders living in Peapack, Gladstone, and Far Hills will be contacted to ascertain if they will make use of the train or the bus for their child's school transport for the 22-23 school year. District representatives will attend a forum on electric buses. As Mr. Baker reported out, the district will take out a lease to purchase a new bus, and the bus is expected for September delivery. Barker Bus has been doing needed bus repairs for less money than the company that we have used heretofore. Also, the company we used heretofore was a lot farther away than Barker Bus is, and that led to higher costs in terms of drivers having to stay and to use gas to get there. For this reason, we are looking into switching to using Barker Bus for repairs on our bus. We are looking into a new camera and GPS system, and it's going to be purchased and installed on all of our buses for next school year. The ESY summer bus routes are all set in terms of drivers and vehicles, and we have interviewed a new driver. I'd like to move action items 1 through 4. May I have a second, please? Kathy? Is there any discussion?
I just have a quick question. I know how hard Ginny and the team works on the transportation side of things, so not to throw more curveballs down the line. But let's say, a student opts to take a train, and that's not working well. I know we have a lot of moving parts in that department. Is there an option to change, obviously with dialogue?
At this point, we're asking them to make the determination for the entire year. I haven't really, last year we did a survey for all the high school students, and about 10 people decided to stay on the bus. And just as a reminder, it's their current middle school bus, because it's a tiered route and they're combined. So a lot of the high school students felt that after school to take the shuttle to go up to the middle school to get on the bus was not as just getting to the train station. We didn't get a big turnout for that. With that being said, to your question, I believe once we set the routes, if there are space on the bus, then if they wanted to change mid-year, we could look into a case-by-case basis. But at this time, we need to get a determination for the whole year and then make the routes based on that and not what people might, change their mind mid-year.
Understood. Thank you.
May I have a vote, please?
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Clark Emery?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper? Yes. Mrs. T. Grandpré?
Yes, I just need to abstain on 1 and 2.
Mrs. Frenda?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
Mrs. Turner?
Yes.
Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
And Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Cooper, curriculum, please.
The Curriculum Committee met on Tuesday, May 31st for 3 hours and 15 minutes. All committee members attended along with Dr. Dempsey, Dr. Butler, Mr. Hoppy, and our New Jersey School Board Association representative, Ms. Thornton. Ms. Thornton joined us to discuss her recent presentation to the Somerset County School Boards Association on the board's role in curriculum development and 2020 changes to learning standards, including changes to the health standards. We discussed the nature of the changes and whether it would be useful for Ms. Thornton to present the content related to curriculum development and health standards at a public meeting. And the majority of the committee agreed that it would be useful for Ms. Thornton to present at our meeting, and we'd like to thank her for her presentation tonight. Dr. Dempsey also presented preliminary results on the parental survey regarding health standards. Most families who responded to the survey indicated that they had no plans to opt their children out of the health-related curriculum. Currently, the number of families who opt out of the health instruction is low. Regarding next steps, over the summer, teachers and administrators will develop the updated curriculum to meet the new standards in health and other areas requiring updates. And in August, the administration will give a public presentation on the updated health curriculum. Next, Dr. Dempsey presented electives with fewer than 10 requests at the high school, along with the administration's plans for these courses. These plans are based on both enrollment and faculty availability to teach these classes, and the committee fully supported the administration's plans for these courses. A parent recently requested the removal of a book from the curriculum at Bedwell. For district policy and regulation, the administration formed a committee to review the work that includes Mr. Catelli, the head of the department in which the work is being used, a teacher in the subject area of the work, a library staff member, a board member, a lay person knowledgeable in the area of the work, and the principal of the school in which the work is being used. The meeting is planned for this week. Dr. Dempsey then updated the committee on the plans for the new grade 6 to 8 math curriculum for 2022 to 2023. Dr. Edgerton and the math staff at the middle school reviewed the 3 middle school math programs, including iReady, Envision Mathematics, and Big Ideas Math. iReady is currently used in K through 5, while Big Ideas is currently used in Algebra 1 and Geometry at the high school. Note that the iReady benchmark testing that we currently use in K through 8 is independent of the iReady curriculum and can be used in grades 6 through 8 regardless of the program selected. Dr. Edgerton and the middle school teachers selected Big Ideas Math, Modeling Real Life. This program includes a well-known, well-thought-out, and rigorous progression of mathematics that is aligned with state standards and that will meet the needs of our students and teachers. Both Dr. Edgerton and the teachers liked the sequence of topics, structure, and presentation of concepts in the program. Rich ELL support and resources in Spanish are also provided. Additional benefits of this program include the fact that it will offer a continuity of instruction since it's already used at the high school, and it offers an option of accelerating students. Some committee members appreciated the potential benefits of using different programs for benchmarking and instruction. Bedminster and Bernards Township schools also use this program. So then Dr. Butler and Dr. Dempsey updated the committee on how the district approaches phonics instruction. Somerset Hills School District has prioritized systemic phonics instruction as well as robust reading and writing instruction in all kindergarten, grade 1, and grade 2 classrooms. In the fall of 2022, Somerset Hills will fine-tune its approach to phonics instruction to ensure the alignment of the district's approach with current findings and best practices. Potential phonics programs will be piloted to ensure continuity of instruction, methodologies, and language across grade levels. New learning opportunities will be offered, and classroom libraries will be enhanced with new decodable books, which are designed to help students achieve phonics mastery by including words that target a specific phonics skill.
Dr. Dempsey also reviewed the district's plan to revitalize its community service program. This was a superintendent merit goal for 2020 and 2021 that was deferred to this year due to the pandemic. Proposed changes to the community service program for the 2022 to 2023 school year in Bedwell, the middle school, and the high school reviewed. Discussions regarding the community service program will continue. In light of recent comments about the importance of test scores, we reviewed a resolution that a previous board passed in 2015 for the 2015 to 2016 school year about park testing. This resolution questioned the relevance, validity, and utility of park testing and encouraged the state to reconsider park testing practices. And that concludes my report. I'd like to move item 1 on the agenda and 2 on the addendum. Do I have a second? Second. Thanks. Any discussion?
Nicole, I just want to comment, and I know I've mentioned this before. You know, as Gwen said today, our duty as board members is to see that the community educational expectations are met. And I do think before we are asked as board members to approve the new curriculum, that it would be really helpful for us to understand a little more thoroughly the survey results. I know you mentioned that the majority are in favor, but if, 51-49 is quite different from a 95-5, either way, however it goes. So I'd just like to, reiterate my desire to learn more about the numbers behind the survey data. Thanks.
Thanks. You did receive the results, right? You would like to know more, or?
Well, the survey's still open, so there's more data. So I think the board, the full board, in order to be able to vote on the curriculum and ensure that we're, taking into consideration the community sentiment, I think it would be helpful for us all to have that data so that we can, make an educated vote.
Thanks.
I'm sorry, did we receive data on that?
We received preliminary results. It's still ongoing. Gretchen presented preliminary results at our committee meeting, and I reported out in the preliminary results in my report.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Not specific data. It's still ongoing.
Okay.
Any other questions? Comments? Roll call. Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Clark-Emery?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper? Yes. Mrs. DeGrand-Prey?
Yes.
Mrs. Brenda?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
Mrs. Tober?
Yes.
Mrs. Wright?
Yes.
And Mrs. Santoro? Yes. Motion carries. Okay. Mrs. DeGrand-Prey, Policy and Personnel, please.
So the Policy and Personnel Committees met on June 2nd at 4 p.m. for an hour and 45 minutes. All committee members were in attendance, as well as Dr. Dempsey, Dr. Butler, and Mr. Hoppy. We started with a discussion about the spring season to be able to inform us for any appointments for the spring season for next year, as well as a discussion on the sports pilot that we had discussed in the last meeting. The results from the survey for spring sports were still being reviewed, and some of them were still coming in. Mr. Hoppy did report out that a number of surveys were still not completed by students, and it was still under the 50% mark in a return rate. And a recommendation was made to possibly place Chromebooks maybe in a centralized place like the cafeteria that was already logged in to encourage students to complete the surveys, that they were anonymous. And he will be sending a formalized summary to the committee when he does get that back. We then did go on to discuss the ongoing discussion of winter sports that had come up in terms of the number of students that had participated last winter in the high school and also in the middle school arena, and what plans for a possible pilot and addressing some of those concerns around safety might look like for next year. Mr. Hoppy has some initial plans in place, but we decided at that point that actually the 8th grade orientation was about to take place, and he was going to do an assessment of the students and look at who was interested in coming into to the high school in terms of winter sports and whether or not it would be an issue for this coming winter, and whether or not we would need to move forward with any of those additional plans of potentially looking at other options like possibly offering intramurals or other potential things that may be out there, or encouraging the potential of some other sports that may not have to have, or may be able to encourage more participation for students that may be feeling like they're not getting enough playing time. So that is still up for discussion and ongoing amongst the committee. We then did go on to discuss community relations, some of which have been discussed here already tonight. We had a very long discussion in regards to class sizes and the section sizes in relation to what's going on in Bedwell. And as we've said here before, there's a lot of competing priorities that are being addressed right now in terms of the budget and strategic plans, as well as what is the current enrollment, residency verifications, the health and PE instruction and how that's being delivered, as well as our overall strategic plan. So as Dr. Dempsey has discussed, it's an ongoing discussion and it's very fluid, and we will all be informed more towards the summer as plans develop further. Our goal is really to try and meet as many of these priorities as possible within our constraints. So with that, I would like to move agenda items 1 through 34 on the agenda and the addendum. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or questions? Okay, can we have a roll call?
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Clark Henry?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. DeGrumprey?
Yes.
Mrs. Frenda?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
Mrs. Tober?
Yes.
Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
And Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, in regards to policy, we did just briefly review the regulations surrounding class size, since that was also part of the community discussion. And then we reviewed the policies that were up for renewal based off of our recent alerts. So policy P5460 is updating on high school graduation and focused on greater clarity for graduation assessments for the classes of 23, 24, and 25. Excuse the typo that I just saw there. And updates the high school diploma criteria for out-of-school individuals. And it also had a section that addresses any state seals of biliteracy programs. Two separate policies, 3161 and 4161, looks at the examination of cause, and again, there was a revision. So that is updating language around administrative code and discusses the process that a school district must take when a Board of Education or superintendent wants to require a physical or psychiatric examination of an employee when they're showing any evidence of deviation from normal health. There was an update and revision to P7410, which is maintenance and repair. And that was rewritten and revised to reflect State Board of Education relocating administrative codes from section NJAC 6A26A to NJAC 6A26. There was an update to Regulation 741001, Facilities Management, Maintenance, Repair, and Scheduling and Accounting. It was rewritten and revised to reflect the State Board of Education Relocation of Administrative Code from sections NJAC 6A26A to NJAC 6A26. There was an update to P8420, Emergency and Crisis Situations. The revision requires school districts to ensure school security drills that occur when students are present and does not require exposure to content or images that are not age or developmentally appropriate, as well as allowing emergency personnel access to buildings and grounds for drills in off hours. And there is data that is required to be tracked annually with that. We also went over all of our policies that were reviewed last month that are in second reading. There were 6 of them. I don't think I need to go over them if they're in second reading. So with that, I'd like to review or move for agenda items 1 and 2. Do I have a second? Thanks, Colleen. Any questions or comments? Okay, roll call.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Clark Emery?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper? Yes. Mrs. D. Grandprite?
Yes.
Mrs. Frenda?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
Mrs. Tobin?
Yes.
Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
And Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, supplementary matters. So I'm going to go ahead and say something in supplementary matters. As an individual board member, I don't want to prolong the meeting, and I appreciate everybody hanging in there with us, so I'm going to try and keep this very short. But I do feel that I need to address some of what's been going on in our public meetings based on public comments. So the first thing I want to do is talk about Dr. Dempsey. I was on this board when we hired Dr. Dempsey and unanimously supported her. It was one of the very first activities I did when I came on this board in January. Dr. Dempsey started her role as a new superintendent, and she hit the ground running. She had 1 full year and half a year before we were struck with the pandemic, at which time she led this district through completely uncharted territories. She transitioned us to distance learning. She then brought us all back to a hybrid situation the following year for in-person education for our kids. Which many districts were not able to do until much later in the year. She has continued through all of this to prioritize and focus learning while also understanding that our kids have had to deal with tremendous social and emotional needs that she continuously addressed in order to help them reach their full potential. She has made really tough decisions along the way and always put the needs of our students first. She has implemented new curriculum through all of this, benchmark assessments that provide meaningful data that drive academic-focused decisions, and she has led a district that we can all be proud of. She has also remained steadfastly focused on district goals and priority. When school boards have now become a political platform, the likes that we have not experienced sitting up here so far. Dr. Dempsey has worked tirelessly for our district, and she deserves our respect and support. And now I'm just going to take a moment to address our students, because our students are listening. They're paying attention to these meetings, and they're hearing what is being said. And as an individual board member, I want to be very clear, and I want them to hear something from me directly. Whether you are LGBTQ+, a person of color, white, neurodiverse, neurotypical, economically challenged, an English language learner, a person with a disability, or any combination, I see you all, I celebrate you all, and I'm here to support each and every one of you. I'm committed to delivering academic and social emotional support to everyone through a culture of equity and inclusion. Providing for all of our students doesn't mean that we have to sacrifice or take away from others. When we embrace, celebrate, and understand our differences, we can all learn, grow, and continually improve our district overall, and better prepare our students for the wide world that they will go out and embrace. I firmly believe a rising tide raises all ships, and that when we all believe and commit to this, we achieve the greatest possible results for our students. It is our sworn job as board members to serve everybody in this district, but most importantly, it is in every fiber of my being and why I am called to be on this board. And so long as I am here, I will continue to work with this incredible administrative team, my fellow board members, and make decisions and vote in a manner that provides for and supports each and every one of you as individuals, wherever you are in your journey of self-discovery. Again, I just want to comment, our students display on a daily basis what the school district is about and what a wonderful community it is, and we couldn't ask for more. So thank you for allowing me that, and if anybody else has any other supplementary matters, I will turn the mic over.
I had a prepared statement as well, but being that there will be a great deal of redundancy if I read from that, I did also want to take the opportunity to express that Dr. Dempsey has my complete confidence as superintendent. And beyond that, I believe that over the last 4 years, she has been working tirelessly to evaluate the academic needs of the students of this district. I focus right now on the academic needs of this district predominantly because that is the feedback that we have been receiving from the public as of last meeting. She has been consistently and diligently reviewing all relevant assessment data to adjust curriculum to best serve students and address the areas that reveal weaknesses. She's an extraordinarily competent steward of budget resources and looks to leverage those resources to provide the greatest benefit possible to all students this district serves. The assertion that she is not focused on academic excellence could not be further from reality in my estimation. Go a little off script here now because I just want to add that based on the wonderful presentations that Dr. Dempsey and Dr. Butler gave this evening that touched on equity, both in terms of our great school ratings and our philosophy as a district, in addition to responsibilities as affirmative action officers and to implement diversity, equity, and inclusion. Dr. Dempsey has consistently and publicly spoken of her commitment to equity in this district, and she does so in the way she evaluates data, in the way that she looks to increase student performance and provide a welcoming and accessible learning environment for all of our students. She did that in the professional development that she has supported, and I think that given the conversation surrounding great schools and what the great schools summary ratings cannot be taken in and of themselves, but you do have to look down at the individual ratings. And as been already mentioned, equity is where we struggle. So I commend Dr. Dempsey and her commitment in that area, as I do Dr. Butler, and thank you. Before I close, I too want to just touch on something that Heather said, and I apologize for being inarticulate, but I'm feeling a little emotional. This evening, a gentleman stood at our podium and mocked the concept of individuals using pronouns and the way they may choose to identify. I'm frankly horrified that I am sitting here today listening to that in a public forum, in a public educational forum that serves students. So, as Mrs. Santoro did, I would like to look out to all of you, our students, most especially and our educators who walk the halls of the schools every day, to our community members who represent all types, whether it be part of the LGBTQ community, whether it be race, religion, whether you are from a home that is a traditional family, one of divorce, one that could look any myriad of ways. I am here, sitting here to support you. You may not always agree with the way I vote. You may not always agree with the decisions that I make. But every time I sit at this table is with the intent of making sure that every one of you is served. And to our students, we support you. As Heather said, we see you, and we will do everything we can to ensure that you are accepted here in this district.
I think a lot of what I'd like to say is a little bit redundant from the previous, but from Ms. Frenda and Santoro. But I'd add a couple more things. First, I'd like to congratulate the boys tennis team on their remarkable success. And the first state tennis title in 4 decades is really impressive. And congratulations to those boys and to Coach McMillan. I'd also like to congratulate the award recipients and all of their success and their accomplishments, and the retirees as well. But so I did want to join Ms. Santoro, Ms. Frenda, Dr. Dempsey, Dr. Butler, in some of these the comments on the health curriculum. I think that every student in our district deserves to receive an education in a safe environment in which they feel seen and heard and supported and free from bullying. All individuals and all students should feel welcome and included regardless of their gender, gender expression, or sexual orientation. Research has shown that quality health and relationship education has numerous benefits, including the fact that it can reduce bullying and harassment and prevent abuse. Comprehensive health education can also improve acceptance of people that have traditionally been marginalized. And I also think that age and developmentally appropriate sex education is important to support the overall health and wellness of students. The updated new standards advance the intent of the old standards by updating them to reflect changes in society. And the state allows flexibility on how these standards are addressed while ensuring that students have access to the information they need to make healthy decisions. Parents have the ability to opt out of their curriculum if they object to it. And as Ms. Santoro and Ms. Frenda said earlier, ideas matter, facts matter, words matter. Some of these new standards were designed to support the needs of LGBTQ plus students. And for students and faculty, we've heard some of the public opposition to these new standards at the last meeting and are concerned by it. I'd say this, we hear you, we value and respect all students and the faculty for who they are. I'd also like to, I'd like to express my wholehearted support for Dr. Dempsey. And I'd just like to commend her performance as the superintendent of our district. In the 3.5 years I've been on the board, Dr. Dempsey has excelled in keeping the focus on what's important in our district, and that's on the needs of our kids. She is smart, deliberate, and admirably adept at using internal and external data to inform decision-making regarding what's best for our students and how to achieve district goals. She has hired a tremendous number of highly qualified administrators and teachers that bring considerable talent, enthusiasm, and new ideas to our district. During the pandemic, Dr. Dempsey's support for the academic, social, emotional, and behavioral needs of students and staff has been exceptional. She also excels at managing our district resources and operations to promote both the academic success of our students and their well-being. So I just wanted to thank her for all that she's done for the district and the community.
Okay, thank you. Public comments. Public comments are welcome at this time on any topic. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Please state your name and address. Thank you for your input. Please be respectful, and we will give you a 30-second warning to let you know when your time is up. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Jennifer Lyming, 34 Dayton Crescent, Bernardsville. Dr. Dempsey and the members of the Board of Education, it has come to my attention that there may be a potential shift in class size next year to the current second grade class. Hence, instead of having 6 classes, there would only be 5. I'm asking you tonight to reconsider and not move forward with this change. This second grade class has been the most impacted class during COVID. They have not had a normal elementary school experience. They are still learning peer-to-peer interactions and need additional support since the pandemic, my daughter Ashley being one of them. Ashley fell behind in reading like many other students. We hired a tutor to help bring her up to speed and gain confidence in reading and close the COVID gap. This upcoming year is an extremely crucial year as these students will be taking standardized tests for the first time. Increasing the class size from 18 to approximately 22 to 23 may not sound like a lot. However, it will impact their social, emotional, and educational growth. As a realtor who sells locally, one of the best qualities when asked to describe why should I purchase in Bernardsville and send my children through the school system versus Basking Ridge is that our schools, Bedwell in particular, have a fantastic small community feel with small class sizes which promotes an intimate learning experience. I ask you once again to please reconsider taking away the extra class. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, my name is Melissa Leonard, and I live at 60 Liberty Road in Bernardsville. I'm the parent of a current Bedwell second grader and kindergartner, and the enrichment teacher at Bedwell School. First, I'd like to thank Dr. Dempsey, Dr. Butler, and the board for their time and listening to the concerns being brought up. I'd like to speak on the issue of current second grade classes being reduced from 6 to 5 sections, thus increasing class size for third grade next year. From a parental and educational standpoint, this seems to go against everything these children need as they move into a critical year of their learning. As educators, we know that third grade is a year of big change and growth for students, both academically and social-emotionally. However, with the effects of the pandemic on this particular cohort of children, this coming school year is even more crucial to their development. This group of children has not had a normal school year since they started at Bedwell. Despite virtual learning, masks, and the ups and downs of the past couple years, my daughter has made great progress. I feel a big part of her progress was due to the individualized and small group attention given by her wonderful teachers at Bedwell. The nurturing and supportive environment provided at Bedwell is what makes it so unique, and increasing class sizes would have a direct and negative impact on our children. Many of these second graders are still learning the skills that we take for granted in other school years. How to make friends, resolving peer conflict, asking for help on schoolwork, maintaining stamina in academic learning, and learning to take academic risks. Many children are exhibiting behaviors that are a direct impact of the pandemic. Increased levels of stress and lack of socialization have caused many children additional anxiety they are just learning how to cope with. Now more than ever, it is of the utmost importance that our children's mental health be addressed. Keeping class sizes at their current numbers would allow teachers to continue to meet our children's needs. Research shows that smaller class sizes have a positive effect on student achievement, and students have better peer-to-peer relationships and better relationships with their teachers. Additionally, students show higher growth in self-confidence and are more willing to take academic risks. Students thrive when they feel a sense of community in the classroom, and it is this community that has always been at the heart of Bedwell. I've always known the Somerset Hills School District to be one that looks at each individual child and helps them reach their full potential. Our mission statement reads, "The mission of the Somerset Hills School District is to provide an authentic and balanced learning experience for each child or each student by harnessing the power of innovation and an engaged community to create thoughtful and impactful global citizens. If we are to continue providing these authentic and balanced learning experiences for all Bedwell students, it is important not to increase class sizes." I appreciate your time and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Leonard.
Excuse me. Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Mindy Sheltry. I live on 29 Old Army Road. I have a current second grader as well. I also have an incoming kindergartner, and my husband is a teacher at the high school. I would, again, ask that you guys consider the increase in the number of children per class for the third grade. I think today in this meeting, we really highlighted how privileged we are in this community. We have so many resources. We are doing so many great things in these schools. Please don't make a decision that's going to disadvantage these third graders because, you know, as Melissa eloquently talked about, there are a lot of facts that point to smaller class sizes. So please consider making the right decision for our kids and for our teachers.
Thank you for your comments, Mrs. Sheltry.
Sorry. My name is Caroline Kimball. I live at 20 Childs Road. I too have a daughter currently in second grade going into third grade next year, and I have another daughter who's going into kindergarten next year. And I just also wanted to ask that you reconsider decreasing the number of sections in the third grade, not only because of what these kids have faced the last couple of years because of COVID, but in the past, you felt that this class size was large enough to bring a teacher from the first grade down to the kindergarten when they were entering kindergarten. You brought said teacher back up to first grade when they went into first grade. You have the 6 sections now when they're in second grade. And so now when they're in one of the most crucial years in their grammar school education, I'm just wondering what the process is in wanting to decrease the number of classes. I know budget is one of the issues, but I really feel that this is a crucial time for these kids. I'd like you to reconsider that decision, please.
Thank you. Yeah, Dr. Dempsey would like to address something.
I just want parents to know that I am certainly sensitive to all your sharing. And I understand, Melissa and I started teaching at Bedwell the same year, and we were in third grade together. And I know that jump from second to third grade. I don't know how it feels in the world of a post-pandemic, but I know even then it was a transition. So I want everybody to know that we're looking at everything. It's just really honestly a matter of juggling competing priorities at this moment and figuring out how we can do as much as we want to do. But the intent, if we could wave the wand, would be to tell you all right now, don't worry, it will be fine and that extra class will be there. I'm just not ready to commit to that at this moment because of other things we're looking at. I do not want you to think, though, that means that it's, okay, thank you for your comment and we're moving on. So I'm going to try my hardest to make this happen. That's pretty much all I can say right now, but I say that with honesty.
And I would just like to follow up on that too, that, the board is certainly hearing you. We have discussed it in committee, as you know, and trust that Dr. Dempsey will do what she can and get to the right conclusion for everybody. So, thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Caroline Lenchi, and I live at 16 Washington Avenue here in Bernardsville. I'm changing topics slightly. My son Julian is a freshman here at BHS. My son Max is a sophomore. Julian is a current member of the band, and I'm just wanted to take the opportunity. I've already expressed this in an email, but I wanted to let the board know that a lot of parents are having thoughts about the music program at Bernards High School, and I wanted to express some of those thoughts, particularly as it pertains to my thoughts on and hopes for the search for Mr. Trumpy's replacement. Let me state the obvious. Mr. Trumpy's well-deserved retirement is a true loss to the BHS music program. He was a force of nature even when I was a student at BHS, class of 96. He has meant the world to the program and to the students, as I'm sure everyone is aware. Julian particularly has thrived in the band. He had an incredibly difficult time, as so many students did, having music essentially taken away from him during the pandemic, and it has meant the world to him, and he's thriving socially and sometimes academically, but certainly in the band, it means the world to him. He also had the opportunity to be a member of the pit orchestra for the recent production of Little Shop of Horrors, and just had a fantabulous time. And all of that was under the leadership of Mr. Trumpy. Music at BHS has always been such a strong program and a source of joy and pride for the students. My son loves being a part of this program. It's his hope and mine that he can continue to be an enthusiastic participant, growing, learning, and contributing to the music that he and his peers so enjoy making. I'm here speaking to encourage the powers that be, that's Ms. Barn and the search committee and the board, to search far and wide for Mr. Trumpy's replacement, to look for a candidate with experience, enthusiasm, creativity, and most importantly, the ability to connect with and draw the best from the students. I know that Mr. Trumpy is leaving big shoes to fill, but I feel that it is so vital to the program, especially as we're recovering from the pandemic, to find someone with similar energy and drive and keep the momentum going, and to help the BHS band, orchestra, and pit orchestra keep putting out phenomenal performances and happy, engaged kids. And I would ask the board to commit the resources and support in keeping this position as robust and healthy as it has always been, and keeping the program as fantastic as it always has been. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Allison Zeno Brown. I live at 40 Center Street here in Bernardsville. I thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight and for the work that all of you on the stage do for the students in this district every day. I'm here to show my strong support for the hiring of a full-time band teacher for Bernard's High School after Mr. Fred Trumpy's retirement at the end of this school year. My two children are students at Bernard's High School. One will graduate next week, and one is finishing his freshman year. Both have been heavily involved with music and theater during their time in both the middle school and the high school. My senior said that his time in music has been the highlight of his time in school. My freshman has been in band since 5th grade. He reluctantly decided to continue this year because of the challenges of online band for over the past few years. But band became a very important part of his school day every day. It was a chance to focus on being together and in creating something unique and beautiful with his classmates. He's excited to talk about the music he's learning. He feels a sense of belonging with the other students, and he feels proud of the band's performances this year. And we are very grateful that he was able to study with Mr. Trumpy this year. It is clear from the performances that he inspires in the students, the concerts and the pit orchestra for the musicals, that Mr. Trumpy is an excellent musician and teacher. We need our new teacher to have a strong musicianship, knowledge of instrumental technique and repertoire, and the experience to lead a team of instrumental musicians, to continue to challenge them, and to help them express themselves. Just as important is the community that Mr. Trumpy has formed with the students over the years. We need a teacher who has the energy, experience, and the time to foster this type of community, which is an important lifeline to so many students. It is not surprising that the number of students in band now is lower than it was a few years ago. The last few years have been difficult for everyone, and the pandemic has presented unique challenges for musical ensembles. Our new teacher will need time to build that sense of community with the current instrumental students and time to spend recruiting students for the future. Now is the time for us to invest in finding an excellent full-time teacher. The future of instrumental music at Bernard's High School depends on it. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. And I just would like to say, I certainly hope Mr. Trumpy is getting word of all the wonderful, wonderful sentiments that have been shared over the course of the last several meetings, because he clearly has a place in everybody's hearts.
Hi, I'm Jim Emery, 31 Locust Drive here in town. Yellow, black, and white, they're precious in his sight. Remember that song? That's what we're talking about when we're talking about diversity, okay? Morality and trust are some other words that came to my mind during this meeting tonight. This was my first one ever. I listened to a couple of you guys talking about the LGBT community and inclusion and all that stuff. By the way, the gentleman that was up here before, I didn't like the way he presented himself, but in his opinion, in my opinion as well, making a mockery of gender by calling all these pronouns and introducing these kids to all these different gender ideas, that's making a mockery of God, okay? I stand in firm faith that there's a God, and in fact, I've read a lot of different things about these topics in sexual education for 5th graders and below. And the one thing that sticks out the most for me comes right from 1 Corinthians 6:18, and it says, "Flee from sexual immorality." We trust our kids, and that's why there's not 1,800 people here tonight, because we trust the board and we trust the educators to teach our kids things that are pertinent to them. 5th graders and below, my son's in 5th grade. He doesn't need to know about masturbation right now. He hasn't even reached puberty. So, but what you believe and what you don't believe is your own business, but there's a morality, and it's, you guys aren't the authority on morality, okay? In my opinion, in my belief, there's a God that lays down what's moral and what's immoral. I strongly suggest that, you really consider hard what we're teaching 5th graders and below. And if we can focus on maybe getting out surveys so that everybody in this town knows what's going on, I don't know where to reach any of these surveys or understand what's going on in these board meetings. Push it out. There's social media. You guys are great at that. Get more people involved so we can really make this a democracy. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate your input.
My name is Christine Zamara. I live at 28 Andersonville Road in Bernardsville. I want to commend the board for making our schools safe and welcoming for every student. Trying to politicize inclusiveness is just a major disappointment to hear at these meetings. This type of political rhetoric being used around children and pertaining to children, and in such a disrespectful way, is heartbreaking and painful to me. Threats are not what Bernardsville is about, not in Bernardsville. And doing what is best for all children is what Bernardsville is about, and what I appreciate most about Somerset Hills School District. Anyone who's here to attack public education, I find this to be terrible behavior. Be respectful and be kind. The school board before you is doing this because they volunteer. Inclusiveness is about being respectful and being kind, nothing else. Those who come to this podium who are not considering every single child should really think very hard about the effects of your words. Most people come here because they care about class size for third graders and music. They don't take their political agenda to publicly abuse school board members who have differing opinions than them. Contemplate how your words affect those around you. Consider educating yourself about what it means to children when you spew hateful remarks towards school board members. It's a bad look, really bad. Or maybe the school district can institute a mandatory parent education program on how to be kind and still get your point across. It also may be time for you to consider putting your child in a private school where they can learn about morality, moral morality. If you think these schools exist only for your child, I think you are wrong. Thanks to all of you for your time and devotion to our children.
Thank you for your comment, Ms. Samara.
Good evening, John Donahue, 16 South Street. And I guess I'll start by saying thank you for the comments about the grade schools. It's an important conversation to have. I disagree with a lot of the rebuttal, but that's what a conversation is, right? You get two sides going back and forth, hopefully respectfully. I'm not here to talk about that, but I'm staying on the same theme, though, and I'm going to talk about advanced placement test scores. And following that conversation, those comments and subsequent conversations, I thought it'd be interesting to look at AP test scores and how we stack up against the peer group I kind of defined as like Ridge, Madison, Mendham, Chatham, and like for those who don't know, advanced placement tests, some kids take them, I guess they get college credit. The score on the 5-to-1 scale, with 5 being the best, and high schools like to tout them. When the profile sheets, how well the students do on the test, and the metric they use is a percentage of students that score a 3 or above on these tests. Now, there's a lot of subjects ranging from art to statistics to economics to languages, and sometimes these profile sheets break them out, and sometimes they aggregate them. Some of them use aggregate numbers because I think it gets the point across. And looking, from these are from the school's actual profile sheets. The number of kids who get 3 or above who take these tests. Ridge was 91%, Chatham was 84%, Mendham was 81%, and Madison and Bernards were 71 and 72 respectively. It's cold comfort to be down there with Madison because with grade schools, like it or not, it is what it is. They're 7 and we're a 5. And I think we have to ask ourselves, why are we performing so poorly? Is there any curiosity within the administration as to why, any discussion as how to improve these things? And these low scores, everyone looks at them. Isn't it just a disservice to our students? But anyone with equity stake in the district, and by equity I actually mean home equity and not the identity politics stuff that seems to dominate the conversation, because a lot of home buying decisions are based on the quality quality of public education. And you, the board, need to demand improvement on this and these metrics and expect accountability. And that starts with the administrator who reports to you, and which you, the board, need to set the priorities that she needs to disseminate down. I mean, I have to ask you, the board, I guess, too, hold you a little accountable. And Ms. Dempsey's contract runs through June 30th, 2023. And in the time since it was effective, July 1st, 2018, have any of her merit bonus goals, qualitative or quantitative, been related to improving our rankings? I mean, that should be the intrinsic thing we're trying to do, and all those goals should support that. And accountability is important, and maybe, a lot of conversations should be had. I'll be quick. Per the contract, my review of the contract, her contract renews automatically June 30th, 2023, unless a non-renewal notice is given 150 days prior, which is January 31st, 2023. Respectfully, we suggest the board carefully consider between now and January 31st, 2023, whether the current circumstances warrant renewal. Have a good summer and see you in September.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Donovan.
Good evening. My name is Tim McDonald, Mine Mount Road in Burnsville. It's been a while since I've been at one of these meetings. You guys clearly have been having a lot of fun. And I got a kick out of seeing my friend John Tober up there, and it's nice to see that the students are participating and coming, and I do know that they're watching and they're listening, and they see how people behave, and they see what people say, and they see how people treat each other. And as I was sitting here tonight, I wasn't sure if I was going to say anything, but I was struck by a speech that Teddy Roosevelt gave at the Sorbonne in France in 2010. It's about citizenship and democracy. And I'm just going to read a couple of words from here, a couple of lines, really. It's not long. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there's no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows the end of triumph, of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold, timid souls who neither know victory or defeat. Now that each woman and man who's sitting up there is in the arena, you guys put yourselves out there, okay? And I know it's hard to sit up there and give these thankless hours in public service, but I think it's important for the students to know that that's the right thing to do. Okay? And that's where the credit goes, is to the people who are in the arena, not the critics. It's those who serve. It's those who give their time selflessly on behalf of this community. And so I'd just like to thank each of you for the work that you do. I know that we all don't agree with everything you're doing, and I've sat on that board. Okay, I ran for office twice. I sat, I served, I listened, I fought, I argued, I voted. But I served. I got 30 seconds. Here's my 30 seconds. I ran for the board for one reason only, because the most important thing this board can do is hire the superintendent. And I can tell you that we put a tremendous amount of effort in the hiring of this superintendent. And there is no better person who's positioned to serve this community than Gretchen Dempsey. And I think she showed that tonight. She listened to what the community said. She went back and did her research and came back with facts. Not assertions, facts. She serves this district well. She deserves our support. She deserves our respect. And she deserves to be treated that way by the members of this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. And we thank you for your service.
Significantly shorter than the last speaker. Okay, I said earlier that I was going to come here to talk about two things, one being data, the other from the heart. So first...
I'm so sorry.
Yes,
if you
sorry,
mind
Christina Ballas, Old Burnsville.
Thank you for reminding me. Okay, so first I just want to say that I'm here in solidarity with my fellow second grade moms speaking about class size. So thank you everyone for coming and for including me in this group. Our kids have really been through a lot with the pandemic. They've not had a normal year, not that all of us have in a while, but they really have not had a normal school year. So anyway, solidarity with that group. I did want to take the time to speak from the heart and really thank the board and specifically Dr. Dempsey's leadership. Over the past few months, watching these meetings on Zoom from the comfort of my home, I just recently was moved to come here and speak personally. I've sent emails thanking decision makers throughout the course of the pandemic, but I thought I should be public about my thanks and appreciation. So I'll tell you my story to maybe try and bring you into some of my heart. So I have a little one at home. She just turned 5. She just got fully vaccinated 2 weeks ago. So my life has changed significantly. I don't have to wear a mask right now because I am not afraid that she is going to die from COVID. That was not my reality for the past few years. And the leadership that Dr. Dempsey showed in getting us through the pandemic with using data, science, state mandates, county mandates, et cetera, helped my older child stay in school and be educated. Now, I am not here to tell you that all the decisions that were made equally impacted the kids in the district. I understand that people absolutely have challenges and there are social impacts that happened and anxieties and all of that. But the decisions that Dr. Dempsey's leadership and this board made helped keep my kid in school and helped her thrive at this stage. And it is very emotional for me to hear people sit here and attack any of the decisions when it came to science-based learnings to keep people safe from potentially dying when I had a little one that was vulnerable at home. And it's personal to me. And so because of these good decisions, I was able to confidently keep my kid home. And by the way, if you talk to people in other districts and have heard how they managed through the pandemic, my goodness, did we do a good job. The fact that we opened up hybrid learning for our kids to go back, those that chose to, the fact that we had choice is such a privilege compared to other towns in this state. And so I hope that people talk to friends in other areas because not everybody had those choices. And so I chose to keep my kid home, and our teachers, amazingly orchestrated both virtual and in-person instruction, and my kids still learned, like holy moly. So I just want to say thank you for allowing my family to continue, for my kid to continue living, for me to continue having a job. If I didn't have this comfort, I would have had to quit my job, homeschool my kid, give up a part of my career, maybe have to move out of the district, which, I don't know, whatever. Some people may feel that that's good, better, and different. But I just want to say thank you, and that I trust the leadership of Dr. Dempsey and this board. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Maura McGrail, 42 Steuben Street, Bernardsville. I want to speak to you about the incoming third grade class possibly moving from 6 sections to 5. While I can give you my emotional plea of how this is one of the largest grades in Bedwell, the curriculum in third grade is more intense, yet many students lack the foundation needed to succeed in these larger classes as they lost out on fundamentals in kindergarten and first grade due to the pandemic. I know many of you on the board may very well agree with me, but that doesn't change the fact that you have a job to do and are tasked with making challenging decisions as a result of budget cuts. While reducing class sizes and the number of teachers may seem like the easiest solution, I see additional budget implications as a result that will end up costing the district even more money in the long run rather than solving the problem. If the curriculum for third grade isn't changing and there will be less one-on-one time with the teacher due to class sizes, I imagine that more kids will require support from specialist teachers. I assume that would create a need for additional specialist teachers as there are already limited openings, as I was told last year, for this support as students aren't testing out of these programs, which equals more money. If not, then that only leaves private options for parents, and if we must pay for private support, many parents may choose to look elsewhere. Larger class sizes often lead to more discipline issues. Larger class sizes mean a greater variation of needs and accommodations, wider range of reading levels, etc., that need to be differentiated for every assignment, thus increasing the teacher's work. Class gets interrupted, needs get unmet, there are too many questions to answer, too big of a gap, too many distractions. If a student can't do it on their own, what are we doing to ensure students won't fall through the cracks, given a teacher's limited availability with a larger class size? This sort of thinking goes against everything we know about how students learn. But then again, increasing class size is never for the children, but rather for the budget. Even focused, hard-working students who are at grade level learning may be left wanting and unchallenged in the classroom, as the teacher puts out fires and attempts to meet the urgent, immediate demands of the class. Even if you believe in the pull-up-your-bootstraps myth, you still must face the fact that if struggling students don't get the support they need in the classroom as a community cannot thrive and will require even more resources, thus more money. I'm certain these decisions do not come easy and that there are many factors involved that I know nothing about. And I'm not going to say that I have the answers or pretend that I do. But if there's anything the past 2 years has shown us, it's that we can do hard things. While bigger classes can be an effective way to save money, it also seems to be the easiest solution from an outsider looking in. You're faced with the challenging task of being asked to do more with less for our kids. And I don't envy the position you're in at all. But I ask that you please dig deep, do the hard work, and look for other creative solutions rather than the easy way out. As parents who need to make the best decision for our children's education and well-being, it would be extremely helpful if you could at least provide more information as to the rationale and or other solutions that you're considering. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments this evening.
Hi, my name is Kelly Hunt. On Valentine Road. I'm here as a parent of two students at Bedwell, one in second grade and one in kindergarten. So I'm here mainly to speak about the second grade class sizes. I appreciated your comment that you are still working on it, thinking about it, and it's definitely something that you would love to give us 6 classes. So, debating whether or not to actually read the letter that I wrote to you, or just say that for the parents that aren't going to get up, I think that they really appreciate you continuing to think about it. I also just really wanted to say that I have started to watch the board meetings within the last year, and I know that you guys volunteer your time, and it has been a really hard year for you to volunteer your time, and it has seemed like maybe sometimes selecting a punishment, but we really appreciate what you do for our students, and I was really moved by some of the comments that you guys made tonight, so thank you very much.
Thank you for coming in your comments.
Hi, Andrea Church, Liberty Road. First of all, I want to say thank you for listening to us today, for taking your time. But you mentioned something about priorities. Please make our children a priority. My daughter's going into the 3rd grade, and I remember when she was so excited to go into kindergarten, only to be cut in half and then not go back until this year, where she finally got a taste of what school's actually like. The thought of having so many students in one classroom scares me, mainly because I feel like teachers need to be able to have focus on these kids who are already kind of behind. When I say kind of is, I think, the teachers do a phenomenal job with them, with what they had, but I see, struggles with reading, struggles with writing, struggles with math, and those are struggles that might not be picked up if the class is larger. I grew up in a very large district in Elizabeth. And one of the things and my husband grew up in New York City. And one of the reasons lived in Japan and New York City, whatever. One of the reasons why we came to Bernardsville was because of the schools. Because we wanted to have the sense of community, which we do have with these wonderful moms here. But I wanted my daughters to know their teachers, to know their classmates. I wanted for me to know my daughter's teachers and the people that work for them to grow up to be citizens and good people. But I feel like from being here, we know that there's teachers retiring. Why is it that we can't, move some of that and use some of that extra money from teachers retiring to be able to hire a third grade teacher so that our classes can be 6 instead of 5. They're talking about class rankings, and honestly, I've looked at the other rankings. I've never looked at the one that's been mentioned here, but I never felt like I had to, because I spoke to people before we purchased a house. My husband and I came and started jogging around Bernardsville before we bought a house, just so we knew what the neighborhood was like. But if we're going to be competing with all these other districts, we need to be able to provide our kids the services so that when they do have to do state testings, they can score well, so that we can have that. We also have to think about the teachers. They've had a really rough 3 years with the pandemic, and just giving them more work and more students to take care of, they might miss something. That's it. So just please make our kids the priority and really reconsider that.
We appreciate your comment, and I do want everyone to know that we certainly think our kids are a priority, for sure, for always in every way and every decision we make, so.
Kathleen Mills, 7 Columbia Drive. First of all, thank you to all of you. I greatly appreciate your time and your patience and your diligence to ensure our schools provide a diverse, inclusive, and informative environment for our children to thrive. Like many of the parents here tonight, I'm asking you to reconsider the proposed class size for 3rd grade. I'm not only a parent, but also a troop leader for 26 Bedwell 2nd graders. During my time as a leader, I have seen firsthand the effects of COVID on each of them. The students continue to struggle with connection and communication. In my opinion, the students are in need of more individual attention, more time to focus on social and emotional learning. I fear by increasing the class size, the students will continue to fall behind. I am committed to do my part as a parent and as a community member and as a troop leader. I am asking that you make the current 2nd grade class a priority when evaluating the goals for next year. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Hello. I agree with a lot of the parents that came up here. Are we going to go through this again?
Yes,
You're going to continue to marginalize me. This was an attempt for me to be who I want to be, but I'll give you my given birth name, Mr. DeLuca.
Thank you very much, Mr.
But you continue to marginalize me, and that's offensive. I agree with the parents that spoke about the larger class size. I'm certain that it would probably lead to even lower rankings than we already have. And to the board members who have supported the superintendent, you are not elected to support mediocrity and poor performance. The school was failing before the pandemic. The rankings were way down, and they got even worse during the pandemic. To say that Gretchen did a good job is an understatement.
Excuse me, I am going to ask you to address...
I'd like to get my time back, please.
You may
I'd like to get my time back. You're interrupting me.
Yes, I am going to interrupt you, and you may have your time back. You are going to address our superintendent by Dr. Dempsey, and you will be respectful to her. Thank you.
Do not tell me how to speak.
Talk just as loud and without the microphone. Okay? Heather, you were elected to not support...
Is my mic on? Heather and the rest of the board members that say they support Dr. Dempsey, Gretchen, during the poor performance of this school. The amount of learning loss that happened during COVID is unacceptable, and students are still trying to recover from that. Gretchen's position during the pandemic was in pure violation of the governor's executive order on masks. Okay, so larger classroom sizes would certainly move to poorer and lower rankings. And we have still not heard a plan on what you're going to do to address that. To say it's because of diversity, Basking Ridge is a more diverse district than we are, and they have no problems performing, okay? So it is a cop-out, and you bring up the fact that this was her first role as a superintendent. Well, maybe she's in over her head, and it's time for a change. I also want to address safety, because poor performance at the school is not only the problem we have. There is playground equipment on the Bedwell school ground that the school board and most of the administrators have been made aware of multiple times. It is deadly for children. There is a missing piece where children can be blinded lose and win. It's terrible, and it still not has been addressed. What are you doing with the federal funds? You're shaking your head like you've never heard about this. People have made you aware about this. So to the board members that support Gretchen and the poor performance this district had, change needs to be made. And you are not elected to support this perpetual failure. We are a 5 of 10. We have lost in our national ranking and our state ranking. Change needs to be made. You need to educate each child within the school to the best of their ability. And certainly larger classrooms will lead to lower and lower performance. The contract's not written in stone. It can be made for a change. And her actions with the recent hires are not showing that she's taking education and the performance of the school seriously. I urge this board to change immediately. Change your behavior. You cannot celebrate and pat yourselves on the back with the mediocrity that we have right now. Our tax bills are going up, and we cannot continue to support this mediocrity. Do your job. Do what you were elected to do. It's time for a change.
Thank you, Mr.
God bless America.
Come on, let's go!
I think I'm going to seem a little boring now. Carolyn Duff of Crestview Drive. Some of you may remember me from last June's board meeting that I unsuccessfully tried to save Latin at the middle school. My son is a second grader, so I'm here, like a lot of the other parents who have spoken tonight about the prospective change next year. I cannot speak any more eloquently than everyone else has, so I just wanted to quickly say that I am, again, disappointed to hear that something may be taken away from my child academically, and that I really, really hope that we're able to keep the class sizes smaller for next year. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Amy Shaver, 20 Southfield Drive in Bernardsville. I just want to thank you all again for your service. Definitely appreciate everything you guys do. That seems like a difficult task at times, but it's definitely worth it for the kids. I want to say that I support all of the other upcoming third grade moms. I did write a letter, so I'm not going to go into that. I just want to say that when my husband and I, 6 years ago, we're deciding whether to move to Basking Ridge or Bernardsville. Those were our top two choices. We spoke to a lot of people, and the class size and the intimacy of, having those smaller class sizes and knowing your teacher and not being a number is what brought us to Bernardsville. So by decreasing class size or increasing class size is really going to, it's definitely going to take away from my child's experience. It could take away also from what's stopping everybody from doing it to the other grades. I also have a first grader, so just something to think about. Again, thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, Lauren Brown, Mine Ave. I have a second grader, and a few weeks ago I got the dreaded call about my daughter being bullied. Long story short, social emotional support is extremely important. If we're looking to make class sizes bigger, I would consider these types of incidents. Bullying is linked to suicide, which is the leading cause of death in children under 14. If you have ever heard of Melrose Army, which she was in my niece's grade, blew out bullying. Keep the 6 sections. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello, Board. My name is Kathleen Shepard, 16 Inbar Place in Bernardsville. I can just hear it now. Welcome to the 22-23 school year. We'll be teaching your kids reading, writing, arithmetic, and sex. We're going to teach your kids what it means to be binary, gay, queer, lesbian, trans, etc., so they can get along in this world. We'll throw in racial tolerance for more virtue signaling. Our school board says our kids need to learn about tolerance and acceptance. Who says so? Show me the proof. Show me stats on prejudice and class warfare, requiring a failing school district to take its eyes off education. Are you kidding me? This is absolute, in a ladylike way, crap. By the way, I was in Walgreens the day after the last board meeting. I was in the toothpaste section watching a mixed group of about 10 young teens twittering like recently fledged birds around the condom display, where you can buy Trojans, etc. The purpose of sex ed, racism, gender in school curriculum is about the indoctrination of our children into a liberal socialist agenda. And may I apprise you of this fact, you might as well go out and play with fire. Socialism is a mild form of communism. Acculturation takes time. Just ask Dr. Martin Luther King. But he was so good at what he did in time. Racial discrimination is not this nation's scarlet letter. Dr. King's civil rights movement was so powerfully effective. The communists of that era gave up on even trying to insinuate themselves into the American culture to sell us a bill of goods we didn't owe. It's clear political ideology is usurping education. The American education system is no longer competitive. I think it's irresponsible and despicable that this drummed up racial gender divide, a red herring in the 22-23 curriculum. And why is it really? Little old Bernardsville, a hotbed of racial bias and gender hatred? I think it's about failure of education and the liberal woke agenda. Distract by changing focus. Divide by finding boogeymen. COVID is no excuse. Other schools managed. The new focus is sex, while we suck out the proud culture of your family. Wait until your woke kid comes home from school one day and when questioned about the school day ridicules you because you don't know what you're talking about. Are the parents of this school district so unsure of their values they'll give their little kids to teachers and school boards, grooming kids to bend to an ideology that is foreign to those who live and believe in America, the greatest nation on the face of the earth? If you don't see our rights being usurped by our school boards, our state and federal governments, you're blind. If you don't believe it, you're uninformed. Check out the radical change permeating our culture. You owe it to your family and to America. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. It's been a while, a few months. My name is Jamie Lease, 3-year board president and 3-year board representative from Far Hills. My 2-term tenure ended in December. I've been following board news and was compelled to come here tonight after watching May's board meeting. During my 6 years, we certainly had robust debates. We had passionate input from the public, but I have never seen such a shameful lack of civility during public comments as was on display last month. Some people were downright menacing. That made my heart sink. How low will people go? In public comments, we had a person shouting for the firing, and again tonight, of our superintendent because they don't like the way a for-profit real estate website rates our schools. It's a sad day when we let a company like Zillow be our benchmark for academic success. We conducted an exhaustive search for a superintendent when I was here, and we unanimously selected Dr. Gretchen Dempsey and awarded her a 5-year contract. Working with her for nearly 4 years, I can say with confidence that I have never met a person who worked harder. She's smart, dedicated, eminently qualified to lead our children's education. Somerset Hills is very fortunate to have her. To have people who have such a very little idea of the responsibilities and demands of the superintendent job call for her ousting is absurd. And to do so in such a mocking and menacing manner brings me back to where I started tonight. Children learn by example. Is this the way we teach our children how to communicate and share ideas? By threatening people? People can have opinions. They can ask for information. They can suggest a change of course. Our society in general, in our Somerset Hills community specifically, must do better. For those acting in this manner, Please demonstrate respect and decorum for our children who are most certainly watching. If you are worried about your real estate values, or you want excellent, qualified educators to want to come to this district, please realize that if any prospective home buyer or employee watched the last 2 board meetings, they would certainly not see an example of a friendly, welcoming community in which to live or work. This is the narrative that you are writing with your horrendous behavior.
Thank you, Mrs. Lease. We appreciate your comment.
Hi, Sylvia Caggiano, 189 Washington Corner Road. I'm not going to speak very eloquently. However, what I did notice is a few people talking about civility, inclusivity, being kind to one another, and then I hear shouts from the audience while other people are speaking. And the board just remained silent, which is astounding to me. I don't care what side this falls on. When you have people screaming from the audience, the board should say something and they should silence the people who are shouting out. If they have something to say, come to the podium. If not, just listen. Don't preach civility and then scream out from the audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your input.
Sorry. Me again.
I'm sorry, I have to ask before you speak again, if anybody else that would like to speak for the first time would like to speak. Okay, I'll just ask you to wait until everybody's had their opportunity to speak.
Good night. It's past evening. I'm Dr. Amy Gunderson, 78 Carriage House Road, Barnersville. I'm here this evening over my concern and my spouse's concern about the changes in the classroom arrangement for the rising third graders. So just to be noted on the record, one more account of a family that's concerned about 5 to 6 extra kids in a classroom. Also speaking from experience as a day leader for the 2nd grade Cub Scouts, I've seen these boys and they need attention. So please consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's anybody else who would like to speak for the first time, please make your way to the podium.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Mataluna. I live at 160 Old Army Road in Burnsville. I've been a resident for 32 years of Burnsville. All of my kids went through the district, the last one graduating in 2018. In addition to being a resident, I'm a local realtor as well. So the issue of greaterschool.org is something I deal with on a daily basis when trying to promote our town. Listening here tonight, I feel like there's a lot of misinformation about how greatschools.org uses a criteria to rate our school. I think Dr. Dempsey did a good job of outlining the criteria that's used, and unfortunately that equity factor that we are rated on, we score lowly, and it's due to, in part, the demographics, which we can't change. It's true that other towns have diverse demographics, but they're not the same as our town. So I came before the board right before the pandemic, and we talked about, Gretchen remembers, doing a branding campaign or marketing campaign to educate not only buyers coming into our community, but also members of our community, so they could understand what our school has to offer, the good things, and where our struggles are. Just like every school district has a struggle, we do too. And I think by educating the community through a branding campaign, I think that will help us all have a better understanding of each other and an appreciation of each other's opinions. I, for one, I have a lot of people in the real estate community who would love to be a part part of a committee to put a branding campaign into effect. I will chair it myself. I'll get the people. If I get the board to support me, I'll get a program together and we'll just get it done. All right. I'm just tired of everybody. I'm tired of our school district being defined by a number, right? If I hear 5 one more time, I'm just done. Like, I want to get results. I want to get change. So if the board is behind that idea, I am be more than happy to implement it and work with you in the community to give us a better reputation. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
It's Barbara Long, Lloyd Road. And I obviously have the seniority around here, but the reason why we moved to Bernardsville 52 years ago was because of the diversity here. We did not like Mendham, we did not like Basking Ridge, because I didn't want my kids to grow up without an exposure to different economic strategies or whatever, economic outlays, whatever. It was a wonderful town. We touted the diversity. So what has happened that this all has been turned around? There's no common sense anymore. People are out there faulting everything all the time. And I don't think the education system has helped this one bit. Because first of all, you blame the fact that we have low scores on a certain element in the town. That's not right. We have always allocated adequate funding for ESL. Sometimes we funded too much. And there have been us over the years who have fought when we only had 4 students in there for paying teachers for 10. Well, they would say, we may have more. But nobody ever was down on them. Nobody ever turned it around any other way. We finally got Italian taught in the school because we as parents said half of the kids, not half, anyway, a lot of the kids speak Italian at home. We would like our kids to be exposed to it. It took 3 years to get the school board to agree to have Italian taught in the school. I mean, what is it? So I have been fighting the school board for years with just absolutely some incredibly stupid things. And we go on now and all of this, what I consider to be disgusting sexual education, which you, as a lot of females up there, I'm sure have been on marches saying, I'm a woman, hands off my body. Well, I think these are my kids, my grandchildren, hands off their bodies. There's no common sense. We should be applauding the fact that we have diversity here. We shouldn't make it into a subject in school that we have to be conscious of diversity. We are so lucky. It's right at our fingertips with everything we do in town every day. And I just don't know where your common sense is.
Thank you for your comments. I would like to address one thing. I don't think anywhere up in anything that we have said this evening, Dr. Dempsey, Dr. Butler, or any board members, have we blamed anybody. So, okay. I just want to be very clear that we are not blaming any students for test scores or anything like that, so thank you.
Hi, my name is Carrie Hazelton. I live on Minebrook Road. When I think about overall test scores and our district and our kids that we are educating, every kid who comes through the door, I try to put myself in the position of what would my test scores be if I went to school in France and I walked into the door having spoken English at home, and I walked in and all of a sudden I was being tested in French and I was expected to perform at a level that was, super hot. Like some kids that had been speaking French all the way along. I just think that all parents in our district should focus on the importance of their kids' test scores, not on overall test scores. Don't worry about other kids' test scores. Think about your own kids' test scores and try to put yourself in somebody else's shoes for once. Try to think about that.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
I'll be really fast. Christina Ballas, Old Fort Road, Bernardsville. I just wanted to comment about and it's not meant to be argumentative, just informational. I too was wondering about our tax rate, and so just to let people know, our tax rates have not really changed in town. It's just that our home values actually have increased so much that when they reassess your home value for taxing purposes, your taxes are going up because your house is worth more. So I did also make the same inquiry once I saw my taxes change, and so just wanted to let the group know that it was because our home values are going up, as is most of the market. So anyways, that's all. That was my piece. Thank you.
Thank you.
Grazie, Barbara. I want to echo some of the comments from Cheryl Manaluna. She's an excellent realtor, and I encourage this board to work closely with her. She knows the market, she knows well. Maybe branding might help, but I think certainly a score improvement needs to happen. And as arbitrary as grade schools might be, it needs to change, and it is an important factor that buyers look at. U.S. News and World Reports as well, our ranking has totally moved back. We're 1,288 in the nation. State ranking as well. And I hope you appreciate my kinder and gentler tone right now, but there's a reason that I may come across as passionate as I am, is because I watch this board member. When all the other people that come up and criticize anything that this board does, you roll your eyes, you put your head down, and you need to be aware of what the people in this town feel. You're not supporting what you're supposed to be doing. The school district is not doing well. You were elected to do your job, and you're not. You continue to pat each other on the back saying, no, we're doing a great job, when change needs to happen, and none of you are addressing it. Heather, you were surprised to hear that there's playground equipment on Bedwell that's in need of repair. What happens if a child gets hurt? You're opening up the school board to a liability claim. That affects all of us as well. So I urge you to take education seriously, the safety of our students seriously, and I encourage you to make change. Do your job. I hope the students at home are watching this, and I hope they see that when you grow up, if you're not performing in your job, you may lose your job, and that's the part of life. You can't continue to cover for each other. You have to deal with reality. The numbers don't lie. The AP test scores don't lie. We are not doing our job. Our school is not performing as well as the others in our surrounding area, for whatever reason that may be. Now, Gretchen, you talked about diversity. I looked it up. Basking Ridge has a higher rate of diversity than we do. So your excuse for that is not acceptable. We need to hear a plan on what you're going to do to improve the school's ranking. And we need to hear that immediately. And the board should put that in any type of future merit or continued contract with Gretchen. This is how things work. You don't continue to get your job for the poor performance. We need results, and we need them now. I'd like to hear what the board's going to do to address the safety concern that I brought up to you tonight. Do you have any plans to immediately change it? Because a child could be hurt tomorrow morning. And then what are we going to do? Looking left, right, what are we going to do?
I have not, I run the facilities department for the school board, and I have not heard any specific complaints. It has not come to our attention for me to bring it to the board. So I will speak to the facilities director tomorrow and ask him what...
I'm pretty sure there's a historical thread letting the board know as well as the administrators. But now you're aware, so let's see how quick you can fix it, because it is a serious concern, and children can be hurt. Seriously. Hi, Pat, I'm still here. So, performance, we need a plan, we need action. And I think you need to put some type of merit, maybe put her on a performance improvement plan as a superintendent. How quickly can we get things turned around from our standardized test scores to this ranking, and how quickly can we do it? And perhaps then maybe you might want to consider
Thank you for your time, and we certainly appreciate the
Am I on my time,
information
Heather?
about, you are.
You sure?
And we appreciate your
Is this interruption?
information about the playground. Thank you. And I do believe that you have reached, for the evening, you are allowed to speak twice. I believe this was your third time to the podium, so thank you. We appreciate all of you.
We can only speak twice?
That is what is in our
Where's that written
policy.
down, Heather? Did you just make that up?
I did not. I will.
Have a good night, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the smoother sounds. But I appreciate what you're doing, and let's make some change. We need results. Let's show the children that action and how we can turn things around. God bless America. Have a good night.
Bob Weibel, Gladstone. So it's been really interesting to see all the people up here speaking tonight. I really got organized with the second graders that are, going to lose a teacher possibly in third grade. And I'm one of those parents, by the way, just so you know. And I'm glad all these mothers came out here and helped out about that. And they knew about it, right? They knew about it. They came, they're organized. The thing I think that we're missing here, and I'm going to bring this up again, is about the transparency of the new curriculum, is I don't think it's been transparent that much. These things came out in June of 2020. I know it got delayed because of COVID, but then still, Murphy in April of 2022 said, we're rolling this out in September. There's schools in Randolph, they've already had numerous meetings where their parents don't ask me why I'm watching their Board of Ed meetings, but I am because I was able to learn a little bit more about the curriculum, or at least the way they're going to teach it at Randolph. And the other thing I want to talk about is the transparency. We got a notification from my daughter who's in 5th grade at the middle school, and it was on May 13, 2022. Not opting out of the health program. Now, there's a little bit of a typo because it said you need to know by March 21st. But all it did is it had the topics. See, so some of the new curriculum that we're going to have, and I think this is what the parents are missing right now, because there's really not been a lot about it unless they go look it up, and some people just don't have time to do that, but they will read the Friday folder, I can assure you that. Is, like by 2nd grade, they let medically accurate names for body parts, including the genitals. By 5th grade, exploring the relationship between sexual intercourse and human reproduction. I'm just giving you a couple of topics, and these are there. These are on the state guidelines now that are going to be issued. And the 8th grade, define vaginal, oral, and anal sex. By 12th grade, describe the human sexual response cycle, including the role of hormones and pleasure. Maybe parents need to know that. Maybe they need to know it before August, because August is it. Then it's going in September. I just found out tonight, which I thought was going crazy, that none of our curriculum is up on the website, because I spent an hour trying to find the 2014 curriculum on the sexual ed stuff, and I had to go to the state website to actually find that. So I think that the further I know there's not a lot of people out here screaming about that, but you know what? They don't know about it to even say anything about it. So I think that the board should really consider, before we vote on this thing, putting that curriculum up there, so when we have that meeting in August, it's a real meeting, that people know and are informed of what's going to be taught. Because I guarantee you, most of the people don't. And I've talked to a few parents about it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Hi. Oh, sorry, another short person. I hate public speaking, so forgive me if I'm nervous.
If you will please state your name and address.
Yes, sorry. Jane Simon, I live at Pfizer Drive in Gladstone. I wanted to speak about the positive experience my 3 kids had in the Somerset Hills School District. All 3 attended the public schools from kindergarten through BHS graduation, which for my youngest, Oliver, was just last spring. All 3 went to competitive colleges, and all 3 felt well prepared by their high school experience. My eldest, who was a chemical engineering major at Tulane, and my youngest, who just finished his freshman year at USC, often expressed surprise that so many of their college classmates seemed ill-prepared by comparison. My middle child will graduate from Dartmouth College on Sunday, and even among those high-achieving students, many of whom came from elite boarding schools, she felt that BHS set her up for success. My kids all say they worked as hard in high school as they did in college, and that the work ethic they developed in high school has been a tremendous asset. When my eldest started kindergarten, I remember feeling afraid that so much of his time and most of his education would now be in the hands of others. At the time, I was a stay-at-home mother, and it was hard to trust that strangers would do things the way I would want them to. Truthfully, occasionally they didn't, but even then, there were important life lessons about things not always being perfect, but still being okay. The vast majority of the time, though, I was impressed by the dedicated teachers and administrators who educate, care for, and inspire our children, and feel very fortunate this district is where my 3 kids were educated. It would be so much better for all the students if the talented and well-trained teachers and administrators could spend more time focusing on the many challenges facing our educators and students, and far less time responding to a very vocal minority who does not represent most of the families in our community.
Thank you for your comments. Christine Zamara, 28 Anderson Road. I just want to share an article that pertains to the home rating system that was referred to earlier by another speaker. And I'm hopeful that the newspaper reporter who's here can add this to his coverage of the news. So the article title is What to Know Before Using School Rating Tools from Real Estate Companies. It was published in the Washington Post in 2017. And I know I've heard this before at these meetings, condensed version, but I'll just read a few excerpts from here if I have time. It is true that school quality does matter. It is also true that test scores, aren't a particularly effective way of gauging that quality, particularly when we recall that test scores tell us nothing about the many things we want our schools to do. Unfortunately, Zillow and Trulia, both of which have partnerships with GreatSchools.org, rely almost exclusively on test scores for their school ratings. Great Schools ratings are based on raw test scores, which correlate strongly with socioeconomic variables as well as test score growth. And for high schools, Great Schools adds in a college readiness factor, which is measured by SAT scores and graduation rates, 2 more variables that correlate with race and class. Looking at such data, we learn relatively little about the actual work of schools. Schools have unique strengths and weaknesses that can't be compressed into a single number. The quality of a child's educational experience depends tremendously on the fit between the student and the school, and any set of measures, particularly if they are narrowly defined, can be inaccurate. It goes on to say a lot more things that are pertinent to this conversation, and when people ask me if they should move to Bernardsville, I always refer them to really not focus on those scores. So the person who wrote the article in the Washington Post is from the Boston area, and this is a nationally it's a nationwide thing. But they wrote, my daughter loves her school, and when I watch her with her classmates, I almost forget about the steadily intensifying segregation that plagues American education, a problem that undermines learning and erodes our democracy. Seeing them together is almost always the best part of my day, but I would have missed it had I placed any stock in the score awarded by GreatSchools.org or the assessment that her school is merely average. And the article's from 2017, but I think since that was pre-COVID, it's a good perspective to have. Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
I'll be quick because I know it's late, but I was trying to be respectful of the 3-minute rule before. But I did want to make one comment about the curriculum topic. And I guess I would just sort of cover it with the concept of transparency and transparency breeding trust. I think often these processes play out what would appear to be behind closed doors. There is deliberation that goes into it. I get that. I've been in those rooms. But to the public, it appears that it's behind closed doors. And then the meeting structure does not lend itself to a dialogue with the community. In fact, we have very few of those opportunities today, and I would just encourage the board to explore ways to engage the community immediately in the development of this curriculum. I mean, I spent time reading what the school boards put out, and then the 66 pages of stuff that the state put out, and there's some spicy stuff in there, and you can see why people would be really upset. And many people don't understand that these are state mandates, and you have to respond to state mandates. This is not the school board making the decision, but nonetheless, I mean, I think the level of concern that's been expressed by parents should cause the board to step back and reflect, and maybe consider a way to engage the community, maybe in age-appropriate pods as it gets broken down during this curriculum development process. Because if you do that, you'll get some buy-in. No one's going to be perfectly happy, but you'll give them a venue for speaking their mind. If you don't do that, you run the risk of delivering a take it or leave it, opt out, and that never leaves a good taste in anyone's mouth. So, I respect you guys, and thank you for, you guys listening. But I would just respectfully ask you to think about ways to get the community involved, like immediately, on what's clearly a very divisive and sensitive topic to all those involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Okay. Can we have a motion to close public comment? Nicole, Holly is the second. Okay, so I do just want to bid everybody a farewell. It is time, our last board meeting, to leave for summer. To our seniors going out in the world, best of luck to all of them, and to our returning staff and students, we look forward to September. Can we have a motion to adjourn the meeting, please?
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 11:20.
Wow. Thank you, Bob.
Bye-bye.
I'll second. Sam is second. The meeting is